The following show is a Pod Avenue production. You are cordially invited to have dinner with the King. Pull up a chair and join WWE Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler and Glenn Moore. Enjoy.
Welcome to the best of 2017 episode of Dinner with the King. I am Glenn Moore, your host for this episode, bringing you all the best segments from the show in our previous 39 episodes that consist of the year 2017. We truly appreciate every single listener, every single download, millions of downloads for the show throughout this past year, and has made our first 39, 40 episodes of the show just spectacular. All the downloads, all the YouTube views, all the best of segments that we play for you today, all the interviews that we had. We truly appreciate everybody listening and interacting with us on social media. The King and I are astounded how quickly this podcast took off throughout the spring and the summer, and the loyal listeners of the show that have made this podcast a staple in the top 200 podcasts in the sports category on iTunes. It's just spectacular that people listen to the podcast each and every week, and and just have become their own little cult. No pun to take away from Jim Cornette, but I feel like everybody listening to the show is their own little group of loyal listeners for the show, and I don't mean little as in the number, but it just seems like a ton of people listen to the show each and every week and interact with us. And as soon as the show is posted, no less than like an hour later, you know, people are already talking about what transpired, and websites are picking it up, and like, we truly appreciate all the downloads and all of the people listening to the show each and every week. And we will continue to make episodes for you, talking about topics. And that leads us into our old school January, which we'll be talking about the start for next week here on Dinner with the King. And speaking of next week, January 2nd or the 3rd, depending on how the King wants to head over to the barbecue company, the barbecue company restaurant, and do a live show. I think we're leaning towards January 2nd. That's a Tuesday. For our live show, you'll be able to come hang out with the King and I at King Jerry Lawler's Memphis Barbecue Company and enjoy some barbecue, watch and listen to our taping of the podcast. So next week is that. We're bringing some people along. We'll have some guests on the show. Who knows who might show up and join us for the podcast. So it's a first-come, first-served basis. I know we can't house hundreds of people, but we will be able to, if you want to come in, enjoy some barbecue, and also hang out with us while you listen and watch a live taping of the podcast, which will be posted the following day, the first half, and then the second half will be posted the following week. So we will be very interactive with the crowd. If you have any questions for the show, you guys can come up to the mic. Don't be shy, and ask the King and I questions. But we'll be keeping it old school. I'm sure, like I said, we'll have some old school Memphis guests come out and talk some wrestling with the King and I, and also enjoy some barbecue. Buy some merch that's from the barbecue restaurant. I'm looking forward to meeting. Well, the King and I are looking forward to meeting each and every one of you, and I'm sure the King will take photos with you guys. I'm sure the King will sign some merch for you. So if you want to bring out some stuff for the King to sign, I'm sure he has no problem doing that. If you guys just want to enjoy some barbecue, it's totally cool too. So we'll be available for photos and autographs. We'll be posting the time and the exact date for this live taping during the week. So you got to follow us on Twitter at Dinner with King. I'm sure a lot of you already do. Dinner with King on Twitter and Facebook. To search Dinner with the King. You can like us on Facebook. And I'm sure the King and I, on our own personal Twitter accounts, will be posting those as well. So, getting into this week's episode, and how this is going to work is there are a ton of best of clips candidates for the show, and I had to narrow these down to kind of fit an hour show. All these clips are available on YouTube. We have a whole playlist of top clips from the show. So if you guys want to head over to our YouTube channel, it's just podavenue.com/KingTube. That's podavenue.com/KingTube. Or just go to youtube.com/dinnerwiththeking. And full shows are there if you guys prefer to listen to on YouTube. And clips or playlists are also there. And if you want to go way back, almost 7 years ago, when the King and I did a kind of a sports wrestling podcast way back in the day, 7 years ago, there's a few episodes of those if you want to listen to sports talk from 7 years ago, 2011 on YouTube. So a lot on YouTube, hours and hours of entertainment for you. But also, like I said, we're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, Stitcher, we're on all the podcast platforms. If you guys want to listen to us, iHeartMedia, all the podcast platforms for either your Android or Apple device. So, without further ado, let's get into the best of 2017 Dinner with the King episode. And now what this is going to be, I'm just going to let it run. I have clips here from our interviews with Jim Cornette, Terry Funk, Bret Hart, even our live panel show with the Rock and Roll Express at WrestleCon back at the WrestleMania weekend, which was probably the first time dinner. Well, it wasn't officially a Dinner with the King episode, but it was the first time that Jerry and I were on a stage together in front of a live audience for the show. So I have a little snippet of that. So a lot of different segments throughout the 39 episodes that we did that we deem worthy for our best of 2017 episode. And like I said, can't include every single worthy candidate, but all of the best clips are available on YouTube, like I said. And I'm sure the link will be posted on the Twitter page. I'll post it after the show is up and available on all the podcast apps. So you'll hear a little segue in between each segment, so you know it's a separate segment. It's not going to just run off into each other. So you'll know when the segment ends and a new segment begins. So I want you to sit back, enjoy this best of 2017 episode, and I want you to let me know, let the King know, which one of these segments was your favorite. If there's a segment that we didn't include in this episode, that's your favorite as well. Let us know on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook, what your favorite segment was of the past 39 or so episodes of Dinner with the King. And I'm sure it's on YouTube if you want to go back and listen to just that segment of the show. And let us know what your favorite show was. Personally, the Terry Funk episode, Jim Cornette episode, are absolutely terrific. The non-guest episodes, I have the Andy Kaufman series is absolutely fantastic. I think we spread out Andy Kaufman talk over 4 or 5 episodes. You can go back and listen to the early episodes and find the title and listen to the full episodes of the King's battle against Andy Kaufman. And then, obviously, the Undertaker episode, old school Memphis Undertaker style, is one of our top downloaded podcasts. And also, I think our most downloaded podcast as of recording is our heel Vince McMahon in Memphis episode, where we play some clips of the first time Vince went heel as a character, and that was in Memphis, Tennessee. So those podcasts are our most downloaded ones. Of course, the Jim Cornette one is up there, and also the Terry Funk episode. So just plenty of episodes to go back and binge listen to. If you just listen to the podcast that's starting now, if you listen halfway through, go back and listen to the first half of the 39 episodes that we've done, and there are some great topics with no guests. It's the King talking about some old school Undertaker and old school Vince for the podcast. So, all right, without further ado, like I said, let's get into it. The best of 2017 Dinner with the King.
it is true that he was moonlighting, or possibly it could have been his main occupation, and he was moonlighting as a wrestler over the recent few years as a male gigolo.
A gigolo, yeah. He was actually on a TV show doing a reality show
called Gigolo?
as a gigolo, yes.
A gigolo.
And I just saw a recent picture of him from yesterday, as a matter of fact, and his hair is blacker than Bill Dundee's, and I didn't think that was humanly possible.
It's so black lightning bugs follow him around in the daytime. It is really dark. And yes, but I think it's because of the amount of testosterone that a genetic jackhammer like that produces.
I see.
I'm here on the cowboysforangels.com website. And,
are you not? Oh, you are?
And there is...
He just immediately got it. We've just said this like 20 seconds ago. He immediately knew how to get there.
I'm very quick.
Cowboys for Angels.
This is the website, Marcus Bagwell. He has his rates up here. Now, can you guys guess if you want to, well, quote unquote, rent Marcus Bagwell for 2 hours? How much that will cost you?
That's not. It's hire. Come on, you don't rent it would be hiring him. Let's not disrespect this.
Well, I mean, are you serious now? There is such a thing. Is
I'm
it
looking,
a gigolo rate?
I'm looking at it right here, King. Yeah, I got a 2-hour rate, a 4-hour rate, overnight rate, a per day rate, a weekend rate, and a weekly rate.
No way.
No, this has been on the internet, and he's talked about this.
Yeah. So how much?
I can't believe you haven't heard about this, King.
I've not heard. I can't believe I'm gonna wrestle him Thursday night, and I don't know if I want to touch him now.
Yeah, I can't believe that you don't heavily traffic, as your co-host does, the male gigolo site.
Now, come on. Now, okay. Now, for a weekly rate,
you think Glenn's a regular on here?
Well, he just had it just like that. But go ahead. What's the rate, Glenn? You can quote. Does he give you a discount? Do you have the card? Where do you get the?
He's got a punch card.
I get the.
every time Bagwell shows up at his house, he punches the card. And then he punches Glenn.
This is not Subway, guys. Jesus.
Hey, lady, if you didn't want to bring your kid in here to hear this, then you shouldn't have come in when you saw my face.
Now, I'm gonna you guys guess for a week for Marcus Bagwell.
Let's start it. We can't afford him for a week. Let's start out with the hourly rate.
Okay.
Yeah, we can't.
Well, he doesn't do an hour. He does 2 hours.
What's 2 hours?
That's the minimum.
Oh well.
That's the minimum.
That's bragging right off the bat, isn't it, Jim? 2 hours.
All right, 2-hour rate. Can you guys give an educated guess?
Oh, good Lord! I'll start $400.
All right.
Oh no, he's got to be more. I'll say $2,000. I'll say it's $1,000 an hour.
Well, $800 for 2 hours.
Jesus. Well, I was just thinking of his independent rate, because he'd have to sit at some stinky independent show for 2 hours at least. So
All right, so it's $800 for 2 hours. Does it get cheaper or more expensive?
That's very, very more expensive.
Very more.
Can you now guess? Let's go for the week. If you want him for a whole week, how much would that set you back? Can you give a guess?
I have to know the details of that. I mean,
okay, if he
does he come and stay at your house or what? He got to be paying you.
You got to feed him.
I was about to say, is he eating out of the refrigerator? Does he come with supplies?
He brings a suitcase and a cooler. Goes up to the front door.
He's just hanging out.
He's like, I'll be here for the next 7 days.
Jerry, what would if he'd gone to Japan for a week in 1983? What would Baba have paid?
Oh my gosh! In 1983, probably for a week, maybe 15 grand.
But not Bagwell or Hansen? Are we back to talking about Stan Hansen now?
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Okay, Glenn? What's his weekly rate?
25 grand.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Baba just turned over in his grave.
25 grand. If you want him for the week, for the weekend, it's 8 grand. Per day is 4,500. Overnight, 3,000. A 4-hour rate is 1,500. So there's Marcus Bagwell's rates.
Does it say when his next available week is? He's probably now into the winter time.
It doesn't give his calendar. Doesn't give his next appearance.
Hey, now you realize I just saw Bagwell here not too long ago. I can't even be around Buff Bagwell anymore because of you people. He'll yell at me now.
Yes, he will.
I'm don't have problems with Buff.
I'm sure he's going to be irate over this coming Thursday night. But Thursday night, anybody listening and you want to see Buff Bagwell and inquire about his rates, he's going to be wrestling me at Tandy Park. And you know what? That's free. You're going to get to be around Buff Bagwell and you won't even have to pay those high prices.
You're going to get your money's worth with Buff Bagwell if you get in for free.
And then, listen.
No, go ahead and say it. Everybody's going to come to see Jerry Lawler beat the crap out of Buff Bagwell rather than come to see Buff Bagwell. Joe, let's just go ahead and admit it. Let's be open about it, Jerry, because as you said one time about a certain individual, somebody on Memphis television, he's a preliminary wrestler, and now he's getting a chance to be in the main event because he's facing the King. Ooh. That's exactly what he's doing. He's facing the King. That's the reason why he's in the main event. When he faces somebody else, he's in a preliminary match because that's where they put preliminary wrestlers. Is that not right?
Well, now I don't even have to cut the promo because Cornette just did it for me. That's perfect. Thank you, Jim.
My final thought is there were a lot of Burger King ads during Raw on Monday. Was that a coincidence, or was that?
Well, Burger King's one of the new big sponsors on Monday Night Raw, so that's a good thing.
Well, it fitting with you on there, right?
What do you mean by that?
The Burger King. Oh God, that video of the fan putting the crown on your head and you yelling security.
Oh yeah, that was classic. But then later on, that was one of the best endorsements I ever got. They paid me $5,000, $5,000 to put that Burger King mask on and wear it into the ring one night on Raw.
Wow, that's great. Look at that.
Yeah, it was awesome. This is no lie. Last night, I told Lauren, I said, you know what? Ever since watching Sheamus, and so these commercials work. I said, after I watched Sheamus and Cesaro eat those Whoppers on Burger King, I've been craving a Whopper. So last night at like 9:30, Peyton was almost his bedtime, and so we gathered the three of us up and we went over on Summer Avenue, and I got a double Whopper with cheese, but I did not get the crown to go along with it. But yeah, so I like Burger King.
Did you like when, did you get upset when they chanted Burger King at you, or was that fun for you?
No, that was fun. That was cool. And who started that up there was, of course, Bret Hart.
Yeah. And
we'll talk about that some more too. But yeah, Bret started the Burger King chants on me in the WWE.
A very special happy birthday wish, a happy birthday song from our surprise singer, and he's a wrestler. He's a very famous actor. Now, I'm going to give you a couple guesses before I play this clip for you, before he sings to you happy birthday. Just from those two clues, can you give a guess on who it is?
Well,
he still wrestles here and there, but now he's a world-famous actor.
Well, I was going to say The Miz, but Miz is still more of a wrestler than an actor. I know he's off. I think he's off filming Marine 19 or something right now.
Marine 6. Come on.
Oh, 6. Okay. Well, he made a lot of Marine. That's a lot. He's getting up there with the Star Wars sequel or something. That Marine, man, that thing has some legs, doesn't it?
And Shawn Michaels in this one, and Becky Lynch is in this one. Yeah.
Bigger. Well, anyway, so it's not Miz.
It's not Miz.
And then I thought, with yours, you got that. We all got that Cleveland connection with Miz. So let's see, who else? Is it Jim Carrey?
It's not Jim Carrey.
I know it's not Jim Carrey.
He's not a wrestler.
Well, he was during that match.
Come on.
The movie.
This is the guy he wrestled before he went big time in Memphis.
Oh, are you kidding me? The Rock?
Here's The Rock. It's The Rock. The Rock singing happy birthday.
You got The Rock to sing happy birthday to me? How did you do that?
Well, yeah, I got The Rock to sing happy birthday. So here is the audio clip of The Rock singing Happy Birthday.
Wow.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Wait a minute. Well, I mean, I know that was The Rock, but where was the happy birthday to Jerry?
I mean, she's singing Happy Birthday.
So you get a hold of The Rock and you say, can you send a birthday song to Jerry Lawler? And that's what you get?
Well, actually...
Or is this, wait a minute, Glenn, this is so bogus. Where did you just pulled some clip off an old wrestling show of The Rock singing Happy Birthday. That wasn't to me.
Yeah, this is off of YouTube. The Rock is us singing Happy Birthday.
You've just ruined my whole birthday now.
You should have seen your face. You got so excited. The Rock's wishing you happy birthday.
Well, right. Of course I was excited.
You know, I Googled Terry Funk sings happy birthday. I Googled Jim Cornette sings happy birthday. I tried to find someone notable to sing happy birthday, and I found this Rock clip. I'm like, oh, the King will love this. He's going to make The Rock.
No, well, I don't love it. No, I do not love this. Man. And then we're going to end the show that way with me all down.
Well, I'm sure Lauren can cheer you up.
Oh, you could have got Marilyn Monroe singing "Happy Birthday," but she was said "Mr. President."
Yeah, that would. See, if I would have done that, it's not believable. The Rock, though, there's that 5 seconds of hope that
that hope spot.
Hope spot. Well, maybe the Rock will send you a happy birthday tweet. You never know. He's a very busy man, though.
Now, I paid $10,000 for a lot of stupid stuff, but not to watch something.
What's one stupid thing that you paid $10,000 for?
I paid $10,000 for a $10,000 bill or Federal Reserve note that I found out later had been thrown out of during like the early 1900s, had been thrown out of the window of a Federal Reserve bank when the bank caught on fire, and they were just throwing these banknotes out the window. And so then later on, shortly after that, because the public just were able to grab up a bunch of these big banknotes, so they were devalued. They were like considered null and void. You know, they weren't of any value. I didn't know that. And this beautiful $10,000 banknote, I wound up buying because I sort of collect like paper money.
Yeah.
I've got, everybody likes to collect paper money, but I got some, a bunch of $500 bills, a bunch of $1,000 bills, and so I wanted a $10,000. So I had the opportunity to buy it and bought this $10,000 banknote, thinking that at minimal value it was worth $10,000, only to find out later that it was one of those notes that had been thrown out the window of this burning bank and wasn't worth $10,000 anymore.
What was it worth?
It's still collectible, and it's probably worth about $2,000.
Oh, that's an $8,000 hit.
Yeah, that's me. That's what I said. I've paid $10,000 for some dumb things before in my life.
Oh boy. All right, let's get into the questions from the fans.
I'm looking at a. Well, I probably shouldn't even tell that.
No, say it. What?
I'm looking at a charcoal piece of artwork on my wall right now. Just looking at it, that I paid $75,000 for.
Oh, jeez, King. $75,000.
Yeah, but right now, from the time I bought it, now it's valued at $125,000.
What's the most expensive thing, other than like a house or a car or stuff like that? What's the most probably obscure, expensive thing you ever paid for?
Well, this Norman Rockwell original piece of art, probably.
Okay. What's the second most? Maybe
the Batmobile.
Yeah. Well, those are good pieces, though. Those are.
Yes, I mean, when you're a collector of stuff, those are good pieces.
Those are good pieces. Do you have like a recommendation for like do you want to be cremated? Do you want to be buried? I mean, what do you want?
Oh no, I don't want to be cremated. No,
so you want to be
definitely not.
Are you going to have like a Graceland?
I would actually like to be like, what was that name? Was it Stalin or Lenin, who was actually put in a glass thing where people could still come by and look at him every now and then? He didn't decompose or anything.
Do you have a burial? Do you have a burial site picked out or not, or no?
I actually do. And listen, we may have talked about this. I bought, and this happens to you, like when my mom passed away.
Yeah. And
she's buried alongside my dad at Memphis Memorial Park over here, not far from my house. And of course, man, the people that run cemeteries and funeral homes and everything, they are like vultures. They pounce on you with both feet when you're in the moment, when you're grieving and that sort of stuff. And that was the first thing I got hit with. What? You don't have burial plans for yourself? You don't have, all this. So they wound up selling me a plot, of course. And then not only did they sell me a plot, they sold me a, not a monument or marker, but the thing that covers your grave. And I'm going to be buried right next to Isaac Hayes, as a matter of fact. They literally have a celebrity row here at Memphis Memorial Park. And that's what the lady that sold me said, the manager would love to have you out here.
Oh my
we have a
God.
Celebrity.
They're dying to have you come out.
Yeah, exactly what they said. They would love to have you out here. I said, okay, but just don't rush things.
Jeez.
But anyway,
that is incredible. So you're going to be buried next to Isaac Hayes.
Isaac Hayes, yeah.
Jeez. So do you ever go to your plot and just look at it and be like, wow, that's where I'm going to be? And
well, I've actually have. Yes, I have.
So you go there and just look at the ground and be like,
I have done that twice. Yes, I have. Wow. And I've said, this is where I'm going to be.
On your own? Just going there?
Oh, no. Lauren and I went, and I said, this is a spot. God. And then the thing that's going to go on the grave, I'll have to go over and take a picture of Isaac Hayes. I mean, it's a really cool, and it's like Elvis Presley has the same type thing. It's like a 8 to 10 foot long piece of it's a bronze thing that covers the entire grave plot, and it's got all these pictures. I mean, Isaac Hayes is so cool. It's like his whole life is laid out in pictures on in this bronze plate. It's amazing looking thing.
Are you going to have like you're just going to have like a headstone, or are you going to have something special?
That's what this is. It's a thing that covers your grave, and it's not a sticking up headstone. It's the thing that lays flat.
Okay.
And it's a really beautiful bronze thing. It costs like $50,000.
So you have it already? Like it's already.
I've already bought it. I just haven't given them. And that's another thing. I'm waiting. That I haven't given them the pictures and the layout that I want on that.
Jeez, this is so. I never thought I would discuss this with you, Jerry, on the podcast.
But I'm morbid. Yeah, that's what we have to do when we have Doc Sampson on.
But I'm curious. So you're gonna have. So it's kind of like Graceland. Elvis's, his is like, the size of his grave, and it has, his name and, I think a quote or, stuff like that. So it's kind of like that, but you're going to have... You
got your computer there right in front of you. I bet you can look up Isaac Hayes' gravesite.
Yeah, yeah. This is just...
And you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.
So you're
it's it's a similar thing to Elvis, except Isaac Hayes. Elvis's is beautiful too, but it just has writing on it. And the one that I got that's going to be like Isaac's is got all of these pictures.
Oh, okay, I see it. So it's like
are amazing looking.
So it's geez, it's like okay, yeah, wow, okay, yeah. This is really detailed. So you're
and then the next thing you get when you tell people about that, they want their picture included on your final resting.
Jerry, can I have my picture out with you? Can we have our podcast logo?
Can I be on your?
Can I be on your
picture? You and I hanging out together on your grave.
Oh, geez, no, this will be. God, Jerry, this is just morbid. Because I know.
Tweet out that picture of Isaac Hayes.
Oh, I will. I will when the podcast drops. But yeah, this is really detailed. It's like yeah. So you're gonna have. So that's going to be the same kind of thing.
Those things cost $50,000.
So you got to pick the photos that you're going to have on there, right?
Yeah, you got to pick out the photos.
Jeez. So you're gonna have.
Listen, I want our listeners, the podcast listeners, to tweet out and some pictures of me that they think would be the perfect
I get a waffle fry in my throat.
That you think would be the perfect picture of me to memorialize me for all eternity. That should be the main picture on my, I say tombstone, but it's not actually a tombstone.
You know what? That's going to be a touchy thing. I don't think you should do that, Jared, because we know what you're going to get. You're going to get the idiots that are going to tweet out some, bad stuff probably, or a mugshot, or just stuff like that probably. I mean,
excuse me, I'm going to spit out my spit take on my diaper there.
But no, that is terrific though. That's going to be okay. I know. I can't believe I'm saying. I can't believe I'm saying this. But
you want to help design it? Come on.
No. But I'm talking about it with you now, and hopefully I don't pass before you do. But I mean,
wait a minute.
I'm 33.
I'm hoping that you do.
I'm 34 years old, so I mean, anything can happen. God forbid something happens to either one of us.
You could get hit by a bus out here in front of Target, right here in front of the restaurant.
I mean, yes, I could. This show might even be our last show. Who knows? But I'm saying,
how has this turned so morbid?
I'm talking about this with you, and I'm gonna go to your grave, Jerry, and be like, wow, I remember that one day I was talking about. He mentioned he was gonna have something like this.
Yeah.
Just, jeez, well. On that note, this is a great episode of the podcast. Very morbid, very. Who's going to be on the other side of you? We got Isaac Hayes on one side. Who's on the other side?
I'm hesitant to mention this. No, I'm not even going to.
Come on, no, come on. Who is it?
Well, I can't remember his first name, but no, he's already there.
Okay.
He's already there. And he was a local Memphis musician, or maybe not musician, maybe a performer. Okay. He was like a rap guy or something like that.
Okay.
But his I don't know. I can't remember what his first name was, but it's something. He was something retard.
What?
Yeah, and that's right on his grave.
Memphis. So he was a rapper.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, so Memphis.
Are you looking that up now?
Memphis rapper retard. I can't. Memphis rapper. I don't know. I you put in Memphis rapper retard in Google, it comes up with a lot of different stuff. I'm sure I'll tweet it out, but I find it. But yeah, so you're gonna be buried between these two guys. So so this guy's a celebrity, the rapper. Was he well known?
He was a kind of a local. He had a little bit of a following there.
Oh, Jerry.
What is it?
Very interesting show. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be very, very entertained with our morbid curiosity of Jerry Lawler's.
I'm trying to now. I'm looking on my phone to try to find this guy.
Yeah, Isaac Hayes. He died in 2008. It's been that long already. Wow.
I know. I swear. I remember. I remember it like yesterday. Back when we were doing the WWE shows at the studios in New York or in Stamford, and I would have to fly every week up to Stamford to do the. To do the voiceover and stuff for Raw or SmackDown or whatever we was doing, and Isaac would be on the same flight with me. He was going to do. Oh, there he is, Jay Retard.
Jay Retard.
Reatard, American musician.
Okay, here we go. Jay Retard. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Who was he with? Associated with the retard?
His name was Jimmy Lee Lindsay Jr., better known by the stage name Jay Retard.
Yeah.
He was an American musician from Memphis, Tennessee. He was signed to Matador Records. He released recordings as a solo artist and as a member of the Retards. So he died in 2010.
Geez, so he was found dead in his home in Tennessee, 3:30 a.m. In 2010 by his roommate.
Mm-hmm.
And he died in his sleep. Jeez, he was only 29 years old.
Yeah, he was a young guy.
Wow, so you're gonna have some great. You have some musicians. So you're gonna play music in your grave.
No kidding.
You're gonna have Isaac Hayes.
And that's like I say. Isaac Hayes and I used to be on the same flight every week from Memphis to New York, and because he was going up. That was when he was taping. What was the show that he was on?
South Park.
Yeah, South Park. He was doing the South Park voiceovers every week in New York, and we would be on the same flight. Jeez. And we'd sit and talk, and I'll never forget one day I'm standing in line at the Delta. Dude. What?
So I'm sorry, really quick. Are you to the left or to the right of Isaac?
If you're standing looking at his grave, I'm to the right.
Oh, okay. Jesus, I found a photo of the plot. This is where Jerry Lawler is going to be buried. Yep. Somebody took a photo of a side view, and the side view is showing the side that you're going to be on.
Man,
this is nuts. I can't believe I'm looking at this. Okay, I'm sorry. Go on. What was your story?
No, I was saying we were standing in line. We were like in a long line to check in, and it was me, and then right behind me was Isaac Hayes, and then all of a sudden Calipari walks up. John Calipari walks up when he was coach of Memphis and behind Isaac. And he said, man, if the three of us can't get to the front of a line, I don't know what's wrong here in this city.
Unbelievable. A very morbid dinner with the king here this week. And hopefully everybody got through this because this was
very morbid.
Very, very morbid. Steve in North Carolina wants to know, you once visited Sable at the Playboy Mansion for a WWE skit. How was your experience off camera at the Playboy Mansion?
Are they talking about did I have an off-camera experience with Sable at the Playboy Mansion?
No, I think they just want to know, when the cameras weren't rolling, how was this, being at the mansion?
Yeah, I've actually been at the mansion a couple of times, and the one they're talking about was with Sable for a WWE shoot, and then I've got the chance to be there another time. It's awesome.
I understand that you had an interesting weekend. You went to the Playboy Mansion, but things didn't quite turn out the way you wanted it to.
Oh, wait a minute. You're right. Sable took me on a tour of the Playboy Estates, and things went pretty well. There was a little misunderstanding at the end, but that's been cleared up. Just take a look at this. It's great.
I mean, that's one of those places that you've heard about your entire life if you're a guy. The Playboy Mansion, Hugh Hefner, and I, of course, got to meet Hugh Hefner both times that I was there. And he was just like you would expect Hugh Hefner to be. He was always, in that smoking jacket, the robe type thing, pajamas, and just a really laid back guy. Came around, he took us out, and I'll never forget, he took us out and showed us like I don't know if it was like a guest house, or maybe it was like a guest house, but it had a really cool pinball machine. It had an old Playboy pinball machine from like the 60s or something like that was still working out there. And he said this is one of the most popular things. People just love to play this pinball machine. Speaking of that, that was another thing I paid a lot of money for. I just got a Incredible Hulk pinball machine from the old TV show Hulk, a pinball machine that's probably 40 years old. I just got it up and running out here in my man cave by my 10-foot tall Incredible Hulk. But anyway, back to the Playboy Mansion pinball machine. That was cool. Hugh Hefner was cool. One of the things that I got to do on that same visit was put on a swimsuit, and they had brought in about a dozen playmates or bunny girls or whatever they call them. I don't think these were girls that had actually been playmates in the magazine. These were just girls that worked at the either Playboy Club or at the mansion or whatever. And they accompanied me into the grotto. You know what the grotto is, right?
Yeah.
The sort of in a cave type pool that's there in the back of the mansion. And all the grounds of the Playboy Mansion were unbelievable too. Out in the back, there's almost like a petting zoo or something. There's all these hundreds of flamingos. These big, tall, beautiful pink flamingos are walking around. All these exotic birds and different animals. There's like some kind of big chimpanzee or something out there. I mean, just a bunch of, it was, I guess these are like pets or collections of Hugh Hefner out in the back. But going into the grotto, first of all, I'm thinking, I can't believe, imagine what else happened in this water. But
oh God,
right. I definitely took a shower after I got out of there. But it was like, there was, we shot some scenes in the grotto with a bunch of bunnies or playmates or whatever. So it was a pretty fun and memorable experience. I do remember the girls not being as pretty as I thought they would be.
Oh, come on, be a star.
Yeah, I know that's kind of a downer for the story, but they were not. They just weren't as pretty as I expected them to be.
There was a line. Sable says, King, I told you to keep your hands to yourself. And you go, what? My hands by my wrist the whole time.
Excuse me, could you put some lotion on my back?
Oh, could I? There's something about you I like. I just wish I could put my finger on it.
I thought I told you to keep your hands to yourself.
At no time did my hands ever leave my wrist.
Oh, God.
That was great. But yeah, that was a great little bit with you. But yeah, it was seemed like you had fun. You were American,
and honestly, there's a true story. Like there were bowls. I saw two, these big bowls. Just like if you're in your house and you have a end table or whatever next to your couch and you got a lamp on it or whatever, and these had these end tables had lamps, and then they had big bowls full of like Viagra.
Oh shit!
This was when Viagra was just like coming out, and it was like the big thing, and they had just bowls of, and I don't know if that was just there as like a. Just as a talking point or a conversation piece or whatever, but that they were really there.
Did you take any?
No, I didn't take any.
Well, you were a married.
I was there on business. You got to understand.
You were a married man at this time, right? I believe.
Yes.
So you were. Yeah, so you didn't partake in any fun.
No, and as a matter of fact, she was with me at the time. So.
Oh, nice. Okay.
The number one thing I hear about the podcast is everybody says, man, I love the podcast. I love hearing the old stories. But where'd you find this guy that you got on there with you, this Glenn Moore guy?
Well, we get a lot of questions for the show. And, today's show is going to be about, our Ask the King Anything. A lot of questions from fans that have followed you for years, King. But there are some questions that I get in my email or on Twitter saying,
I bet you do.
How did you meet the King? Why would the King do a podcast with you? So I have my own wrestling show. This is Awesome Wrestling Show. I haven't done it in a while, but things that we can't talk about because your time is valuable, my time is semi-valuable. That we can't talk for more than an hour 15 minutes. But I figured I would, tell some stories. And one of the stories, questions I get is, how did you get to meet the King? And I know, King,
How did we meet? Do you remember?
I do. Well, I might as well just say it now. I'll do a condensed version. So, I did. Well, Jerry, I'm in sports media in Cleveland, and I was doing a TV segment for Bruce Drennan. All bets are off, and I was on from the ballpark before the Indians.
Now, for the people around the country that may not know, Bruce Drennan is a very well-known sports guy in Cleveland, Ohio, and he has a show that's on Fox Sports every single day in Cleveland, a TV show called, as you say, All Bets Are Off. And it's a funny, sometimes we'll get into the story about how that name came about. But Bruce has that TV show, and like you said, you used to do some work for him. You were in all sorts of Cleveland sports media, right?
Yeah, so I was I was doing on TV. And I was talking to Bruce, and it was just me, Bruce, and the producer of the show. And it was a live TV hit at the ballpark. And in the back of the room, the door opens, and in walks Jerry the King Lawler. Now, Jerry, you're one of my favorites, even before meeting you. But I didn't know you were going to be there. And in walks Jerry the King Lawler, because I think you were going to be on after me, like a half an hour after I was, because when you come to Cleveland, you usually jump on All Bets Are Off if they broadcast from the ballpark. So I got, my segment was over. I go to you, I shake, hey, I'm Glenn, nice to meet you. And I think me being on, on the show, maybe made you realize that I'm not just other Joe Schmo. Maybe not. I don't know.
That gave you some credibility.
Yeah,
in my
gave you
eyes.
some credibility. So you had some time before you had to be on, and you wanted to go down in the locker room to talk to some of the players. I know you're friends with a lot, Travis Hafner, Chris Perez, a lot of guys that were on the team at the time, and you had no clue how to get down to the locker room, and you were by yourself. So I escorted you, and I'm walking with Jerry the King Lawler, taking him to the Indians locker room, and you did your thing, and then we were on the field. And we were just, BSing for a little bit. And we shot a video, which is on YouTube, between you and Chris Perez, because Chris and I did a, little video series on the field before almost every home game. And did a video with him, and you gave me your number because I wanted to do an interview for my my sports podcast. I talked some Cleveland sports, and that turned in. We had like a 10-episode podcast back in 2011 called The King's Podcast. And it was just
what
we did, yeah. It's on YouTube, a few episodes, but we talked mainly Cleveland sports. It was all Browns and Indians, some wrestling, but it was more catered to sports. Yeah, we did it back in 2011.
I do not even remember that, Glenn. I remember I remember coming to some place and we did a sort of a sit down TV interview with a big picture of one of the Cleveland Browns, a huge picture in the back, like behind our. Where was that at? What was that for?
That was with the Cleveland.com, the Plain Dealer, when I was working for them, and that was in their studio. And you were in town and had you come by the studio, do a video interview, and then you talked with some of the people that worked there because they were big fans. Yeah, you were sitting. I think I have a photo. You were sitting in front of, I believe, either the three photos were Kyrie Irving, who is gone, Justin Masterson, who obviously is gone from the Indians. And I believe the other one was Jim Brown, for the Browns player. So, I think it was Jim Brown. Yeah, because it had to be Jim Brown because we couldn't find another Browns player worthy enough to keep on the board because the roster turnover is unbelievable. But yeah, so that's the first time we met and became friends. And then we, whenever you came to Cleveland. We went out. I would, meet up with you, or if I had traveled on the road to go to pay-per-view, linked up with you. So I mean, that's how we. And
then the podcast came about. You contacted me, and you've remained friends as I have too. But you probably a little more closer with Chris Perez, who was the Cleveland Indians pitcher. And then somehow you called me up one day and you said, "Hey, Chris is starting a podcast company."
Well, me and Chris and I.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Chris and I. Okay. Chris and I. I'm the
you and Chris started a podcast company, and I think the idea was because he had a lot of connections of different athletes and sports and stars and stuff like that, and you guys are going to get different sports celebrities to do the podcast, and I don't know, I know that's how I agreed to do it, and I think I know. Does Chris do a podcast himself?
No, no, he doesn't. Chris and I did it. We do a couple shows together, like talking sports or just BSing. But you are our big free agent signing, so to speak.
I'm the big guy. I'm the big name.
You're the big one. And if you are out there, and we also help out people who want to start their own podcast, whether you're a celebrity or not, or an athlete or whatever. If you want help getting your podcast off the ground, we have some inquiries. Go to podavenue.com.
If you really, Glenn, you got to follow through on this. Tell them how to do it. Tell them how to reach you.
Yeah, podavenue.com. There's a contact button, and I offer myself a professional podcast production. I know we get a lot of people, commenting on how the show sounds. It sounds quality audio. It doesn't sound like we're recording in someone's basement, like people think podcasting usually goes.
Like a lot of podcasts are recorded.
Basically.
One of the things I found out some information, and I've even found out even more information since then. But the pleasure of Ricky Steamboat rode with Lauren and I from one of the towns to the next, and had an extensive conversation, and most of it was about the nature boy, Ric Flair. And apparently what Ricky did, as soon as Ricky heard that he was in the hospital, he jumped on a plane and flew down there. And went right to, went into his room there he said he was in the ICU. And when he went in and Ricky was standing there, and I guess Nature Boy's fiance, Wendy kind of rubbed Rick's forehead, and Steamboat said that Rick was just out of it, and she rubbed his forehead, and she said, Rick, look who's come to see you. It's Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And he said, Flair opened his eyes and looked at Ricky the Dragon and said, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, incredible. That was all he said, and he just kind of closed his eyes back again. But apparently, it was really a touch and go situation. They explained to him what all had gone down, and when the Nature Boy had that first surgery, I guess the doctors told him that there was just that it was really touch and go, and that he had about like a 20% chance of survival of making it through that surgery. But we all know that he did, and of course, I guess during the surgery, even what made it even more hairy was the fact that I guess his kidneys failed, and they had to put him on dialysis during that time. But since then, he's the Nature Boy he's kicked out. He's making a comeback. He's getting a lot better, and that was one of the things that Steamboat said. He said, he was in such bad shape when I first got there, and he said I just heard yesterday that he's already cutting promos on the nurses there at the hospital. So he's doing a lot better, and he's on the road to recovery. Going to get him into some rehab, and even the Nature Boy himself on a tweet said, hey, the Nates will be back better than ever. So that's great news. I mean, we came I guess really close to losing one of the greatest of all time, but now it looks like he's going to be back, and in his own words, better than ever.
It's amazing, and he kicked out at 2.5, eyes closed.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's great news to hear about Rick, and hopefully we can see him. I'm sure he'll be making the appearances and strutting down some aisle very, very shortly. Jerry, I'm going to be morbid right now. I'm going to be morbid. Okay. I'm going to ask you, did you have like a funeral set up or a will or something like that? I mean, I'm sure you have a will, but do you have like your...
You know what? I'll be perfectly honest with you. I'm telling the world this right now. No, I did not. And I don't even have a will. Isn't that terrible?
What?
And that's the one thing that Lauren has told me. I've really got to do that. Dude. But to me, you talk about being morbid. I don't know. I've always been under the assumption of, when you make out a will, it's almost like you're betting against yourself. Yeah. I don't know. But I know that in reality, it's something that you really need to do. Yeah. And I'm definitely going to do it.
Because who's going to get the Batmobile, Jerry? If something happens to you like today.
Do you want me to remember you in my will?
Yeah. There's a joke for this, isn't there?
Yeah. Yeah. When they read the will, they'll say, and to my friend Glenn Moore, who I promised to remember in my will. Hi, Glenn.
You know what, Jerry? I think you made that joke before on the past podcast.
I probably did.
But like I said, I will be if I got called into some will reading, whatever they do for a will. I haven't been a part of one, and that happened, and you said hi to me in your will. I would be forever. That would be more than anything you could leave me, Jerry.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll do that.
So leave me the Batmobile, though. I would love the Batmobile.
Oh yeah, see, there we go. Now the fighting starts.
The Batmobile would be great.
You'll be there with a copy of this podcast saying, I contest this will because he promised me live on a broadcast that he would leave me the Batmobile.
You leave the Batmobile, his WWE Hall of Fame ring.
Good grief.
What else? The Hulk, the 10-foot statue of the Hulk.
So you don't want any of the money. You just want the stuff.
No, I don't want anything, Jerry. I just want to say, if you say hi to me in your will, that'd be cool. Okay. That'd be cool with me. But we have. So you need to get a will, Jerry. We need to get that done for you.
Let's do a podcast about wills. But speaking of the pre-show,
yeah,
I knew this was going to happen, and sure enough, it did.
What?
I misspoke just a little bit.
You did.
What are you laughing about? That's another thing. You know I did. People don't realize Glenn sends me all these text messages anytime I make the slightest mistake.
Oh no, there's a reason.
Sends me a text message.
There was a reason for this one. There was a reason, because you called me in the morning and you asked me, you wanted to reaffirm, the correct pronunciation of Shinsuke.
Correct. What?
You wanted the correct pronunciation of.
Listen, you can't even say pronunciation. See, some words are hard for certain people to say.
You wanted me to have.
I have trouble with these, with certain names.
With who?
With certain names.
Which names is it? Which names do you have trouble with?
Well, what do you mean which names?
Which names?
Sometimes Asian names I have trouble with.
Okay, so who was the one you had trouble with on Sunday?
Well, let me tell you, and you know this, Glenn. This goes back to all the way back to me and you being Cleveland Indians fans. Remember when the Indians had this player named Sin-Soo Choo?
Yeah.
Playing for him. Now I think he's with Texas Rangers, but he was with the Indians for years. I would say Shin-Soo, or I would just get it wrong about 99% of the time, but it was Sin-Soo Choo. Well, now, of course, we have Shinsuke Nakamura.
There you go.
Did I get it right?
Shinsuke Nakamura. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think I called him Sin-Shay.
Well, you said it. You said a few variations.
Shinsuke Nakamura, and he's going to be taking on Baron Corbin.
Yeah, I don't know if I can say this, but some idiot tweeted out, and I'm looking at my phone, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, what? This guy tweets out, said, did Jerry Lawler just call Nakamura shit stain? And I'm going, what the heck? So then I had to get you to send me the clip of what I actually called him, and I did say Shin-Shay instead of Shinsuke.
There
right?
you go.
Okay.
Of
course. I mean, it's Shinsuke Nakamura. I'm not around him to speak to him enough to know that I just walk up and say, hey, Shinsuke. But all of a sudden, the graphic came up, and it was my turn to read the graphic, and there it was, Shinsuke Nakamura against Baron Corbin, and I unfortunately said Shin-Shay, but then I corrected myself, and but it was a slight bobble there that you called me on. Thank you very much.
Well, we talked on the phone, and I was like, this is how you say it, King. This because they're gonna pick on you, and they're gonna have you say his name on the pre-show. You just sure enough, they had you introduce the match, but. Now you're fine. So when you're on the pre-show or if you're on whatever, now you can get his name right.
Well, that's a pretty important decision. I'm sure that somewhere down the line, before it just goes out there, they would have to go to Vince and say, here's some names that we came up with. What do you think of Great Balls of Fire?
I love Great Balls of Fire.
I don't think that they would just go out there and say, all of a sudden Vince sees a promo and says, hey, why is there a pay-per-view called Great Balls of Fire?
You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna put two big balls of fire on the promo. They're gonna love it.
I would think that Vince. What is that? Your Vince McMahon impersonation?
That's my.
Doesn't sound anything like him.
It does a little bit. No, that's like my attitude era Vince. There's also like the when he was announcer, what a maneuver! Like he has that. There's like different.
That sounded nothing like him either.
You're
maybe
fired.
have another waffle fry. Maybe deepen your voice a little bit.
But I guess Meltzer reported that this was all scripted. All the lines were approved beforehand. There were a few ad libs, obviously with Cena. When Reigns forgot his lines, Cena stepping in, and there was some dueling ad libs back and forth, but this was a scripted promo. I'm sure something like this has to be approved because
because Dave Meltzer knows everything. Dave Meltzer.
We'll get into
little dweeby.
We'll get into Dave Meltzer very shortly. How does WWE / the Superstars Wrestling view the dirt sheets / wrestling quote unquote journalists like Dave Meltzer and whatnot?
Yeah, they're not fond of him, as you can imagine. And I think probably the reason they're not fond of him is because when those guys get the information that they get, which is always inside information that spoils the fun of what somebody is is in the WWE is trying to, put out there for the fans, that what the WWE has to realize is there's somebody, some rat, some mole on the inside that's working, or that's on the payroll for the WWE, that is giving the information to these guys. I mean, to these dirt sheets and to these Meltzers and guys like that. That's the only way that they can get that information. And so that's frustrating, and that's hard to deal with, and that's, that would make anybody upset. If you and I were sitting down and for weeks writing some kind of a script for a movie or a TV show or something like that, and then it's going to be a big surprise to the public, and then I find out or you go out and leak it out to somebody that writes it, that puts it in a newspaper article, and so that everybody can see it before it comes out. It just spoils the fun of everything, and I'd be really disappointed in you if you leak that information out. And that's what goes on with these dirt sheet guys. They're just there as I've never understood their purpose. They're really 99% of them are people who are not athletes, have never been in the business. They can't really respect the business or even like the business of wrestling, or they wouldn't do that. I mean, we all know it's entertainment, and when you're watching a TV show or a movie and you just start watching it, if somebody comes along and tells you how it ends or what's going to happen in the show before it happens, that's spoiling it for you, right?
Yeah. I
mean, that's why they call it spoilers. And that's all these guys are about. That's what they live to do. And I never could understand them, and I never liked them or had respect for them.
Would you call Meltzer a little dweeb? Is that what you said earlier?
Yeah.
So you don't like Meltzer at all, or just?
No, not at all. But I'm never around him. I never see him or talk to him or anything. But I just don't like what he does.
But somebody has to be talking. I mean, has WWE ever done some stuff to find out who the leak is? Do they really care about that kind of stuff? Or
well, yeah, they care about it. Sure, they do. But it's I guess when you got so many people working for you, it's hard to find who does that stuff. But then I don't know. Then I think JR has done shows with Meltzer.
Yeah. I mean, I think people want to know the behind the scenes stuff because of why.
But you know what? They only think they want to know.
Yeah.
They really don't. It really does spoil things for them when they know that. It would be much more fun to watch and much more entertaining if you didn't know that stuff.
Back in the day when I was in high school and the Attitude Era was prevalent, when internet was just starting, I would go to Raja.com, which is a website that did like recaps and whatnot, and I would only read the spoilers when SmackDown was taped, and if I didn't watch SmackDown or something, or I'm not going to watch SmackDown, I would read the day before spoilers of the tapings. But I can only imagine what it is to be like a wrestling fan now if I was a teenager and spoilers were just everywhere, all over the internet. It wouldn't be fun. But
no. And you know what? I remember back in the day, one of the first guys, and I loved him, but I just couldn't understand the mindset of it or anything. But one of the first guys to start giving out a lot of the information to a friend of his, they put out one of the first quote unquote dirt sheets, was Eddie Gilbert down here in Memphis. He had some guy that he was a friend of his, and they put out these. I'll never forget. It was like a little. This was like you said, before the internet or computers or anything. He would put them out on a little 2 or 3 sheets of paper, and they'd staple it together at the top and mail them out to people.
What?
And so, oh yeah.
Wow. That's Well, what about these journalists who report on things like news, like okay, so and so was fired because of this, or so and so is suspended because of this. What do you things like that, non-spoiler stuff. Is that okay or no?
Well, are you talking about wrestling news?
Yeah, like the whole Paige situation. Paige is suspended, and people reporting things about her and Alberto Del Rio. Not no personal stuff, but also she's not going to
What
be.
do you mean? Not yes. It is always personal stuff.
Right.
That's what they love to dig into.
Yeah.
No, I don't like that at all. I don't like that when they try to dig into somebody's personal life. I really don't. That's not part of the. Somebody should get to have a little privacy in their personal life. That shouldn't be all part of the business. But when things happen that you're responsible for, then it does become like news, or it gets your personal life out there in public, and then it can't be helped. But I don't like it when they just go and try to dig behind the scenes stuff that has no really news value or anything like that to be out there.
Yeah, so I enjoy Meltzer to a point. Some of the things, I like to know some stuff that's going on, but I can see why, someone like yourself in the business would call him a dweeb. This is from Mike Leake, and this is from California, and he wants to know, he asked about your Goldust promo back in the day, your Attitude Era Goldust promo. Where you call him, well, we're not going to say it on the air, but
please.
He wants to know if there's any backlash with you and Dusty and Goldust from that promo, and do you think someone could do that promo nowadays?
Well, I'll answer the last part of that question first. Absolutely not. No, you could not. I mean, the world has become so politically correct, and we now live in a world, we've talked about this before, that anything you say will offend somebody. I mean, I don't even care how nice you're trying to be. There's going to be somebody out there that is offended by it. And that goes not just for me, that goes for you, that goes for everybody. Everybody on TV, all the superstars on TV every week have to be so careful now that to me, it takes a lot of the fun out of what we do. Just the other night, or just this past weekend, I was talking to Booker T, and he said that, he has to really concentrate now when he's out there doing Raw for these few weeks for David Otunga, that he has to really concentrate on not letting anything slip that might even be slightly offensive. And I can't remember, he told me what it was, but he almost let something slip out the other day on one of the Raw shows. And he said, I just literally stopped in mid-sentence he said it took me a couple of seconds to think of another word for what I was going to say, but then I finally came up with it. And that's just the way it is today. That's the way society is today. Everybody's going to be offended by something anybody says, and the difference today is with social media, with Twitter, everybody out there has got a voice now. Everybody that is on Twitter can anything you say to the WWE, if you put at WWE in front of in your message, in your tweet, it's going to be read. It's going to be seen by somebody in the social media department of the WWE. So everybody has a voice now, and everybody can say, "Oh, I'm offended by this," and I can't believe that he said this or that sort of thing. And so, no, that kind of a comment could not be made in today's society, and especially in today's entertainment world. But that's one of the things when I go back and watch the Attitude Era, we had such leeway. We had such, it was just so pushing the envelope, so over the top that everybody got away with this, everything. And I think without a doubt there was a different target audience at that time, and there was the majority of our fans were a different age, and we were targeting the 18 to 34 crowd, the college students and that sort of thing, and so their brand of entertainment is different, or was certainly different. What they thought was entertaining is different from what our target audience today would accept. So. Yeah, I know the interview, and there's another interview floating around on the internet of something that I said. I did an interview with Handsome Jimmy Valiant back in our Memphis days, back in the 80s. And there was, once again, you could say or do anything, and nobody would think anything about it. But yeah, times have changed, and we have to be very, very, very careful of what we say and do these days.
Was there any blowback between you, Dusty or Goldust with that promo?
Oh no, not at all. No. Never. Nobody was ever offended by anything that anybody else said about it.
And this one guy comes walking up to me and at the table to get an autograph and have his picture made. And I look down at his left leg, and on this guy's left leg were tattoo portraits of wrestlers. And I'm looking, and I said, "Holy mackerel!" And he said, "Yeah, man, look at this." And they went. Oh, he had on like some shorts, and as he like pulls his shorts up higher, and the higher he goes up with the shorts, the more tattoos there are. And so this guy had, I'm looking at him, and down at the bottom by his ankle, there was Paul Bearer. And then right above Paul Bearer was Kane, and right above Kane was The Undertaker. And then right about this guy's knee was a great portrait of Bret the Hitman Hart. And then there was above that Shawn Michaels. And then there was Stone Cold Steve Austin. And then the guy pulls his shorts way up, and there's Triple H at the very top. And these are all really great portraits, and tattooed on this guy's leg. And I said, I mean, he's already got his shorts pulled up to his crotches. I said, "You don't have any higher than that, do you? I hope." And he said, "Well, actually, I do." And I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, I have Vince McMahon tattooed on my ass."
No.
And I yeah, that's what I said. No. And he said, "Oh yeah." And I said, "Well, show me." So this guy's standing in line in front of a lot of people. He just turns around and drops his trousers. I'm serious. He drops his pants, and there, right on the left cheek of this guy's butt, is a big picture, a big tattoo of Vince McMahon.
No.
I'm telling you.
Which?
And I told him, I said, can I take a picture of that? And he said, "Sure." And so, and he told me, he said, I didn't put this on there as any disrespect for Vince McMahon. He said, "I'm a huge fan of his." He said, "This was just a tribute to back in the day when Vince had the Kiss My Ass Club. Remember that?"
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, that's what this is all about. And so I take this guy's picture, and I couldn't, I just had to send a picture. So I text this picture to Vince. I sent this picture to Vince, and I explained to him, I said, "Vince, I'm at this horror tattoo convention," and I said, "This guy has this tattoo of your face on his butt." And I sent it to Vince, and I said, "It's amazing what some people will do, huh?" And Vince's response was just, "OMG." But so I will tweet this picture out, and so everybody will see what I'm talking about. I mean, this was just amazing.
Which
the artwork is good. It's really a great portrait. The artwork is fabulous on all these tattoos.
Well, I haven't seen the photo yet, but which version of Vince is it? Is it like the young Vince? Is it like the Attitude Era Vince? Is it the mid 2000s? Is it the current Vince? Which version of Vince?
No, it's the version of Vince from the Kiss My Ass Club version.
Okay.
And he's got this big scowl. He's like he's screaming, "You're fired!" Right? It's one of those faces. It's the best ever. And the funny thing about it, as I'm looking at the picture, I'm going to show it to you right here in just a second. But the funny thing about it is, there's a young lady that is standing next to him in line, waiting to get her picture made with me, and she's just like staring over at this guy's naked butt with this tattoo on it.
God.
He didn't care. He was proud of it.
That's terrific. Well, hopefully, whoever the guy that has
You want to see it now, or do you want to wait till I'll show it to you?
Yeah, you can show it. Well, actually, send it to me so I can promote it. When we do get up.
I just sent it to you. Check your phone.
Let me see. This is me seeing it for the first time. Oh, God. Here we go. Opening it up. Oh, that's classic Vince.
Is that not great?
Jeez.
Zoom in on it there. Look at that.
I'm zooming in, yeah. Geez, that is amazing. What makes you... okay, yeah.
I showed it to Lauren, and I swear all Lauren said was, "Ooh, he's got pimples on his butt."
God. What? hopefully the person's listening. Did Vince text you back in time for the guy to know that Vince McMahon?
No, I just sent the photo to Vince.
So hopefully this person is listening to the podcast and knows that Vince McMahon has seen his ass and has seen his tattoo now. So hopefully his day is made.
And his response was OMG.
Now I'm more surprised that Vince McMahon uses OMG than the tattoo.
Why is that?
I don't know. I figure Vince would be more of a guy that would actually spell it out. You know, oh my God. Oh, I love the Steers reaction. Oh, a text from Jerry Lawler. What is this? But no, that's terrific. That's, the things you'll see at these conventions, Jerry.
Oh my gosh, I see all crazy kinds of stuff. It's awesome.
When you got the call from Andy about being on Letterman, what was your initial reaction?
Oh my gosh! I mean, it was like I was thrilled. I mean, that was like I said in 1982. This was before cable television. This was when all the wrestling was regionalized. I mean, everybody was divided up into territories, and the only national exposure that wrestling could get was through the magazines, the wrestling magazines that were printed and done in New York, but then they were distributed, in all kind of stores and magazines, shops, and things all over the country. So as far as national publicity, that was the only way wrestlers could get themselves known all over the country at that time, was through the magazines. Now all of a sudden I hear going to be on a network television show, NBC network television show, Late Night with David Letterman, and that's going to be seen all over the country. This was like the thrill of my life. This is a dream come true. Something just didn't happen to anybody at that time. So, I jumped at the chance to be on there. And like I said, Andy was actually the guy that called me up and said, it just, I guess Andy had been on with Letterman several times, and Letterman said later on that Andy was one of his top 3 guests. I mean, because you just knew that you never knew what to expect from Andy, but you knew it was going to be something entertaining and something really funny. So Andy and Dave had worked together many times. So I guess it was not that big a deal for Andy. He just called me up and, like a matter of factly, said, "Hey, you want to come to New York and be on the David Letterman show?" And so I said, "Yeah, of course." And he said, "Well, I'm gonna give them your number, and they'll contact you, and you and I get to go on there and talk about our match down in Memphis." So that's what happened. I get the call from the Letterman people. They flew me to New York, and of course the Letterman show. This was in the first year of his late night show, and I think David had an afternoon show, and he'd even had a morning show that had not been successful. But I mean, he was made for late night, and this was the the first year of the Late Night with David Letterman show, and so it aired. It came on at like 11:35 Eastern time, but they actually taped the show at like 5:30 in the afternoon, and then had it all ready to go until later on that evening. So they flew me to New York. I met with they sent word to me that I was going to meet at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon with the segment producer, the guy named Robert Morton, who was later on became the producer of the main producer and director of the Late Night with David Letterman, was with Letterman for 20-something years. But anyway, at that time he was just he was just a segment coordinator or whatever. So I get there, and he explains to me that Andy was hesitant to. Andy had told them, he said, "I can't even be in the same room with this Lawler guy." He said, "I can't even stand to be around him. So you just with him first, and then I'll meet with you guys after you're finished with Lawler, and you tell us what you want us to do." So I'm in there by myself with this Robert Morton guy, and he said, "We think this will be a lot of fun. We've got the footage of where you pile drived Andy, and we got the footage of Andy making fun of Memphis and making fun of you and wrestling and all that sort of stuff." And he said, "So you guys are going to be on for 2 segments." And he said, "During the first segment, we'll have you and Andy out there, and Dave will show the clips of Andy making fun of all of the Memphis people and that sort of thing, and just making everybody despise him. And he said, then Dave will show the clips of you pile driving Andy. And in the first segment, we'd like for you guys to be a little bit antagonistic towards each other. He said, not too much, but just a little bit antagonistic. And he said, then Dave will kind of calm things down and take a break. And then when we come back in the second segment, we want Andy to apologize to you for making fun of Memphis and making fun of wrestling and making fun of you and women. And I said, and then you apologize to Andy for pile driving, hurting his neck. And he said, then Andy will get up and sing, what the world needs now is love, sweet love. And I'm just sitting there listening to that, and I'm thinking, wow, okay, well, that's going to be funny. That'll be cool. And so that was the plans. And I said, okay, fine. So I go back to my hotel, and I'm getting ready to come back at 5:30 to do the taping. And about 3 o'clock, my phone rings at the hotel, and it was Andy. And so he says, well, did you meet with Robert Morton? And I said, yeah. And he said, yeah, I did too. He said, did they tell you what they want us to do? And I said, yeah, show the clips, and then you apologize to me, I'll apologize to you, and then you're going to sing what the world needs now is love, sweet love. And he said, well, what do you think? And I said, well, and here selfishly, I'm thinking, once we go on TV and kiss and make up, Sandy sings a song about love. I mean, that's going to be pretty much the end of our feud down in Memphis, because everybody's going to see this, And so, we were still in the process of bringing Andy back week after week after week down in Memphis, and we were having more matches against each other. And he had a bounty out on me to see if he could, bring in a wrestler that could pile drive me and break my neck and all this sort of stuff to get revenge for what I'd done to him. And so I told Andy, I said, well, it sounds like it's going to be funny, but that'll be it for you and I as far as being able to come down to Memphis and work any more matches. And he just sat there on the phone and he said, yeah, you're right. And he just sat there another few seconds, and then I'll never forget the way he worded it. He said, wonder what would happen if you just hauled off and slugged me. And I said, oh, Andy. And I mean, I hadn't even, nothing like that had even crossed my mind. And not on network television. That's just unheard of. And, I said, oh, Andy. I said, I don't think we can do that. I said, first of all, we're taping this thing. If I haul off and slug you, they're not going to show that. And I said, second of all, I'll get arrested. And I said, I got to be back in Memphis day after tomorrow. I can't be going to jail up here in New York or anything. And he said, yeah, you're probably right. But wouldn't that be cool? And that is the way it was left between Andy and I. I didn't see Andy again until we actually walked out on stage together. I didn't see him in the green room. He was adamant about when he got there to do the taping of the show, he couldn't be anywhere around me. He was just carrying it. He was just, that was the great thing about Andy. I mean, he would go to extremes with whatever he was doing to make it believable. So he told everybody he couldn't even be close to me until we went out on the set. And that's what happened.
Hi there. Thank you very much. Welcome back to the program, and a fine program it is indeed, folks. Let's get on with it, shall we? On April 5th, 1982, in Memphis, Tennessee, Andy Kaufman, the actor, comedian, and intergender wrestling champion, had his first wrestling match with a member of his own sex. The opponent was a very serious wrestling favorite named Jerry Lawler.
Sitting back there in the green room, there's a bunch of other people, there are other guests that are going to be on the show. And so, next thing you know, Dave introduces me. And
tonight, for the first time on network television, they meet face to face. Here are Andy Kaufman and Jerry Lawler.
I go out, I sit down in the chair, and he's got two chairs there. And then he introduces Andy. Here comes Andy out. He got the big cheers from the audience, and he's wearing the neck brace still, months and months after the match that we had had down at the Coliseum. And so Andy comes out and sits down, and we start the segment, and Dave's all in control and everything, and he shows the clips of Andy making fun of all the women and harassing me, and then he comes back, and Andy's being the lovable Latka character, and he says, I was just having fun. I was playing bad guy wrestler is all, and so we had a few comments back and forth. And,
do you still need that neck brace on there?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do.
Are you in a lot of pain?
Well, I'm not in nearly as much pain as I was, and it's healing, but it's still enough to wear the brace.
One of those kind of nagging, lingering injuries that...
I don't know what you call it, but I just have to wear the brace.
Now,
and then Dave showed the clips of me pile driving Andy, and it looked vicious, and right then the studio audience sort of turned on me. They were like, it was all of a sudden they became like a wrestling audience. They just came back. They were booing me and cheering Andy, during the segment, and then so we got a little bit antagonistic, like they said, sort of, and I finally found out why they wanted us to be antagonistic. Dave, they had installed a bell, like a ring bell, underneath Dave's desk, and he could ring with his foot somehow. And so when we got a little bit antagonistic and got almost ready to take the break, Dave starts ringing that bell and underneath the table that Andy or I neither one knew about. So then he said, we're gonna take a break and see if we can kind of sort things out here, and we'll be back in just a moment.
We'll pause here and regroup. We're going to take a time out for a commercial.
You could be mad when you see something like that.
Well, we'll continue this discussion right after you folks at home take a look at this.
So they go to commercial break, and Andy just gets up and walks off the set. And if anybody's ever been at David Letterman taping or anything, they kept it it felt like it was about 32 degrees in the studio. And then when they weren't doing the show during the commercial break, they would shut all the lights off. It would just went almost totally dark in there, just I guess to keep any kind of heat from building up. I don't know why Dave was so. I guess he would get hot during while all the lights were on and everything, but it was so cold in the studio. So Andy gets up and he walks away, and it was funny. I'll never forget. Dave leans over and says to me, "Did you ever know Dick the Bruiser?" I said, of course I do. I've wrestled him several times. He said, I used to do ring announcing when I first started in television in Indiana. He said, I used to do ring announcing for some of his wrestling shows. I said, wow, what a coincidence. And then, so then we're sitting there, and I don't know, he said a few more things about wrestling, and then it was time, to start the second segment. They would actually shut down the taping for 2 minutes, which is how long the commercial break was, and then boom, they turn the lights back on, and here we go, and Andy comes back over and sits down next to me, and we start the second segment, and I swear when we started a little arguing again, and I had a couple of one-liners for Andy. I think one of my favorite was I told Dave, I said, I said, when I look at Andy, I think one of the things that happened when he was born, his father wanted a boy and his mother wanted a girl, and were both satisfied.
You see, I think when Andy was born, his father wanted a boy and his mother wanted a girl, and they were both satisfied.
And so that was I was proud because it even got a laugh out of Dave, which was kind of unusual, So we went back and forth, and Andy, I finally sensed that this is not going the way they want us to go, and I think Dave felt the same way. And the segment I knew was going long, but Andy never apologized officially to me. I never apologized to Andy for the pile driver, and we just kept going and going. And then Andy sensed it as well, and he turned and got a little more aggressive, called me a redneck and that sort of thing. And then Dave, when I watched it back, I love to watch Dave's face and watch his expression when I go back and watch the clips again, because you could see on Dave's face that he's all of a sudden realizing this is not going the way it's planned, and I don't have any control over what to do next, because these these guys are like really getting starting to really getting heated
they all
here.
Said that I had a right. I could have gotten a lawyer and I could have sued you for what you did, and I didn't. And all I want is an apology. Even you asked me last time I was on your show if I was going to have a lawsuit, and I could have sued you. I could have sued you for everything you're worth. Well, and I didn't because I'm not that kind of a guy.
Yeah. You know what?
What kind of a guy are you?
You're not the kind of guy you're.
I'll just be over here.
And so then finally, I think Dave just he extended the segment on a little bit long, but then I guess he realized, hey, we got time constraints, so I got to wrap this thing up. So he said, well, guys, we're going to take another break, see if we can sort things out.
We're going to pause here for station identification and get the hose.
And I knew in my head that this is our second segment. After this, we're gone, we're done. They're going to hustle us out of here, during the commercial. And so, I've said this before, it was not planned.
Get the hoses out here.
I guess it was the suggestion that Andy had said earlier on the phone, but when I watch it back, it's like an out-of-body experience. It's like I'm watching somebody else. I don't even remember what I was thinking at the time, but I just watched myself stand up. I looked Andy right in the eyes to just kind of see if I could let him know what was coming. And man, just looked at me, and I just hauled off and slapped the crap out of him. I mean, as hard as I could hit him. And once again, when I watch it back, I love to watch the expression on Dave's face, and it was almost as if he squinched his face up and went, ooh, and I realized that and then from that point on, Dave couldn't even look at us. He just kept staring straight ahead. And I think he was just thinking, I've lost complete control. And I saw where he said later on in an Esquire magazine article that was the first time he felt he was not in control of his show and that he had lost complete control. And in reality he had. But I slapped Andy. He's laying on the floor, starts screaming. The security guard comes in and grabs me. Of course, Paul Schaefer and them had already started playing the music on the out, and that's why I stood up. I knew we were on our way out, so that's why I stood up, slapped Andy. Security guard comes in, grabs me by the arm, and hustles me back to the green room again. And I could still hear all the commotion going on out. I could hear Andy yelling. I could hear some women. It sounded like women were screaming or crying or something. It sounded like an assassination or something that had just taken place out there, And it was like there was pandemonium for like 15 minutes. I'm sitting back there in the green room, and then finally it kind of quieted down, and I didn't know whether to expect the police to come in and handcuff me or what to happen next, because I knew Andy, and I knew Andy, was never going to say, oh, that this is, we're friends and this is a setup. I mean, if the police had come, Andy would have said, I want him arrested. I know he will. But anyway, the commotion sort of died down after 15 minutes. And I'm sitting in the green room, and then suddenly door kind of creaks open just a little bit, and I see a young intern that was working there at NBC, and he kind of peeks his head, and I think he thought, man, this guy's, there's a complete nut in this room that just became the first person to ever strike another guest on a talk show. And I always say, I think Jerry Springer might have been sitting in the audience of that night and said, hey, this might be a good idea. But anyway, so this little intern sticks his head in and says, Mr. Letterman wants to know if you would like to come back out and sort of wrap things up. And when he said that, I thought immediately in my head, holy mackerel, maybe they're going to show the slap. And so I said, sure, I'll do whatever, So I go back out. I walk back out on the set, and Andy's off over on the side, still holding the side of his head, and he's walking back and forth and talking to people. And I sit back as I walk back out on the set. All of a sudden, it was a complete wrestling crowd. Now the whole crowd, the whole studio audience, like 750 people, start booing me. And so when I sat down, Dave said, Andy, are you going to come back in here? And Andy said, I'll never forget. He said, no, if I come in there, I'll say words you can't say on television. And so we started the segment, and Dave said, well, Jerry Lawler's here, and Andy Kaufman's here, and some nights I wish Tom Snyder were still here, which was he used to host late night before Dave took over the show.
I am sick and tired of this.
Hi there, and welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. As you can tell, Andy Kaufman is here, sort of, and Jerry Lawler is also here, and there's some nights I wish Tom were here, but that's not the case.
We come back on, and this is the part that I think really put the whole thing over the top, because Dave knew Andy, and anybody that knew Andy in person, in real life, knew that Andy was not, he was really a shy, he was a quiet guy, he was very respectful, he was not a kind of guy that you would ever hear say a curse word or swear or anything like that. And suddenly Andy comes in as we come back on the air, and he lets loose with this tirade, this stream of obscenities, cursing me, calling me every kind of name you can think of. And then of course he said then all of a sudden he stops in mid-sentence and he says, I'm sorry to use those words on television. For all my fans out there, I'm sorry. But you, Lawler, you're an effing a-hole, and he just goes off again, and there he goes with all these scrants and rage.
To use those words on television, I apologize to all my fans. I'm sorry, but you're a...
And he grabs Dave's, I think it was water, I don't think it was actually coffee. He grabs Dave's water, and he looks me in the eye and gives me like, hey, here comes the water. And so he then... I had time to move out of the way, but he throws the water, jump up again, go towards him, and in comes the security guy again, and Andy takes off running. And this time when the security guy gets me, he says, come on. And so, I leave the set, and Dave goes to another break, and thinking, I don't know if there's any way that this is going to show, but I'm thinking, no, there's no possible way it's going to. As a matter of fact, when Andy was doing all the cursing and everything, I just sat back in my chair and I tried with my body language to to give him the message that, Andy, you're ruining this right now. I mean, they're obviously going to show the slap, but there's no way on earth that any of this cursing and this obscenities could be shown. So stop. Why are you doing this? And but he just continued right on. And then when the security guard took me straight out to the elevator after that, and we get on the elevator, and he said, Mr. Lawler, I just want to get you out of Rockefeller Center. I want to get you downstairs and back to your hotel. He said, that Kaufman, he said, his elevator don't go all the way to the top floor. He will have you arrested, so you need to get out of here. So he takes me down. I go back to my hotel. They had car service for me. They take me back to the hotel, and I didn't hear another word. I never heard anything from Andy. I never heard anything from the Letterman people until 11:30 that night. I turn on the television and watched the show, and they showed everything. They showed the slap. They showed Andy coming out with the string of obscenities, with the exception of course, they didn't beep it out. It was what made the segment even funnier. Instead of using beep, they put in the cuckoo clock sound effect. So every time Andy opened his mouth to say a curse word, it went cuckoo, 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 cuckoo. But you could read his lips. You could tell exactly what he was saying. And so it was just the most classic segment that it was insane that even watching it at the time, I knew, oh my gosh, this is something like has never been seen before on network television. And immediately when that aired, the phone started ringing off the hook. I mean, it was the New York Post, it was the New York Times. I think the word wimp was the first time the word wimp was ever used in the New York Times newspaper when I referred to Andy as a wimp. And but yeah, it just blew up from there. It seemed like everybody in the world was talking about that. Oh boy, he really did. He's really calling. You think that's him?
It was supposed to be our surprise guest, but everybody knows that he's a hardcore legend, a man, Jerry, that you have battled with over the years for decades. It's been a couple years since you guys have been in the ring together, but you'll be squaring off this weekend. And, Jerry, I know you're going to be upset with me, but he is probably just up there when it comes to guys that I enjoy watching. He is Terry Funk. Terry, how are you today?
Well, it depends on how I do on this conversation with this asshole I'm talking to.
Oh, please. Are you gonna? Is that the way you're going to start this conversation like that?
It's the only way to start. You got to hate in the world of wrestling.
Man, oh, man. And first of all, Glenn, well, thank you. I guess I could say thank you for being on our podcast here. I understand. You don't do many podcasts, do you, Terry Funk?
The only thing wrong with your podcast, no, I don't, is it stinks.
Really?
Ow.
Yeah, it stinks.
So
bad.
is that your opinion, or have you heard that from people that listen to it?
It's got a god-awful odor. Have you looked around and smelled something dead?
Jerry, I think that's you.
Now, please, wait a minute.
That's you, Gary Lawler. It's your ass that stinks, Lawler.
Okay.
Not mine.
Okay.
It always has, too.
Okay,
in the ring, too, Lawler.
Okay.
You want to start jacking around and talking about stuff that, what a great time we're going to have. What a great ass kicking you're going to get.
Okay.
How do you like that, Lawler?
I like it so far. I like it so far. It's typical Terry Funk.
You like you going to get an ass kicking?
Yeah.
Well, you're going to get one.
Well, let me just say
right. What do you want to talk about now?
Okay, I want to talk a little bit about what Glenn just said. Did you say it's been a couple of years since he and I were Funk and I were in the ring against each other?
Yeah.
I swear it was in Jackson, Tennessee, and it seems to me like it was just like last week because I can remember it so vividly. We had a huge crowd at the Oman Arena in Jackson, Tennessee. Terry Funk and I squared off for the first time in I don't know how long, and it took about first of all, you came out and you insulted probably the greatest ring announcer ever in the history, Lance Russell, and you came out and said terrible things about Lance. What was up with that?
He's a moron.
What?
He's a moron. That's why.
Wow.
He deserves to be exposed the same way that you need to be exposed as a chicken shit.
Is this language okay, Glenn? I mean, is he going to be able to get away with this kind of language?
No, that's all. I will not say another. Chicken shit is chicken shit. Okay. And you're chicken shit.
That should be a
so, but you're saying that Lance Russell,
perfectly fine.
Lance Russell,
say chicken shit on the podcast. It's perfectly fine. Chicken shit is not considered a bad word. If you want me to tell you another word that begins with MF, I'll tell you that one, and that's a bad word. Do you know what that word is?
Yeah, let's don't use that.
Of course you do. Of course you do. Because that's what you are. You are an MFER.
Okay.
Think about that.
But let me get back to the fact that you call
Tax your brain a bit.
You're saying Lance Russell.
Tax your brain.
You're saying Lance Russell is a moron. I just had lunch with Lance a couple of weeks ago at my restaurant here in Memphis.
I didn't say I'm not talking about Lance Russell. I'm not talking about Lance Russell.
You just said Lance Russell was a moron.
Your idiot announcer. Your idiot announcer that listens to you and what you tell him to say about you. And that's all he says. And that's the only reason he's your announcer. I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about you. Have you got that right?
Okay, yeah. Well, then let's talk about you and me in that match in Jackson. You say you're going to give me an ass whipping in the Carolinas coming up this weekend. What happened in that match in Jackson? If I can remember, it took about 5 minutes into the match, and you're going to the back. You're bringing out a garbage can full of brooms and shovels and mops and all of this sort of stuff to use as weapons, and still you got set on fire at the end of the match. Do you remember that?
I was going to clean up after the murder. Your goddamn murder.
Oh, brother.
Wow. Jeez. But I remember being ringside, and Terry, your hair was on fire.
He probably doesn't remember that.
That really pisses me off. I am still sitting here with one side of my hair shorter than the other. That really pissed me off, and that's the only reason I'm coming back.
Yeah, well, speaking of coming back, is it true? I mean, is this...
it takes an old man a long time to grow hair.
Okay.
It took me 70 goddamn years to grow the hair that I got on top of my head. And it took you 7.5 seconds to go ahead and burn the shit off. You're really intelligent, Lawler. That's really brave. That really has something to do with wrestling, doesn't it? What does that have to do with wrestling?
I don't know.
That's not a toe hold. That's not a headlock. That's not a body scissors.
Body scissors?
That's really the most stupid thing that I have ever had done to me in the world of wrestling. You ruined my hair in 2 seconds. You ruined my hair that I've grown for years and years.
Oh, my gosh.
And
Quit worrying
years
about
to go
your
ahead
hair.
and have my beautiful hair, and then you kill it.
My cat has coughed up better looking hair than you got.
That's the stupidest thing that I've ever had done to me in my entire life.
Well, I'm sorry.
And it's not the first time. It's not the first time, you idiot.
Well, what about the time?
I'm not talking to you, Lawler. I'm talking to the announcer when I said idiot.
Oh.
Because he's got to be an idiot to have you on his show.
Well, this is Jerry's show.
That was the idiot speaking.
What in the hell did I agree? Why did you call me up and say, will I come on your show?
I said
not Jerry.
No, I said this is Jerry's show.
Bullshit. Bullshit. Jerry Lawler, he thinks it's his show.
No.
The guy sitting next to you thinks it's his show.
No,
You
never.
think he's your friend? He's not your friend, Lawler.
Okay.
And I'm not either.
I know that. Trust me, I know that. Let's go back to one of the things that started this decade-long feud. What about that empty arena match that we had in Memphis, you and I? Do you remember that? You worried about your hair? That, like I said, I mean, I did you a favor to
See, that's
burn
how
that hair
bad
off
your memory is. That's how bad your memory is. That wasn't a decade ago. That was
I didn't say it.
goddamn
I said
century
a
ago.
decades-long
That was a century ago whenever I was in the ring with you then.
Yeah, well, let's
My
talk
life
about
has
that for a minute. What
changed.
about when you broke?
I'm
you
a much
broke those
meaner man than I used to be.
You're
I'm
meaner
damn
now than
sure
you were
of that.
then?
You bet I'm meaner now than I was then.
Well, do you remember breaking up?
I've got a surprise for you, Lawler. I've got a surprise for the Tennessee people. And it's going to surprise you.
Well, do you remember breaking those steps that night in that?
You want to try to guess what it is?
No, I don't even care what it is. A surprise from you is the fact that you're even supposedly coming out of retirement. Why do you tell everybody you retire all these times and then you keep coming back? Hello?
Well, because every time, no, I'm not speechless. Because every time I retire, I mean it. It's the last time I'm going to step into the ring.
Really?
That's what it is. It's the last time I'm going to step into the ring.
And then somebody
every time
comes along. Somebody comes
through
along
with wrestling. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. But then my love for the profession just enters my heart and soul again. And somebody always asks me, Terry, will you come back, please, one more time? And I can't turn them down. I can't turn them down. I know one of these times I'm going to go to heaven. I want you people to know that.
I thought that the fact was that somebody comes along and says, would you please one more time come out and kick Jerry Lawler's ass? And that's what makes you get back in the ring. It's not that. It's just your love of the profession.
No, it's my hate of Lawler.
Oh, I see. Okay.
It's my love of the profession and the hate of you.
Why?
That's what it is.
Why over the years has this persisted? What's about the hatred for me? Why has that happened? You know, when people ask me, who's the toughest guy you ever wrestled? Who's the most entertaining guy you ever wrestled? Who do you have your best matches with in your career? I always answer Terry Funk. Now, why for me is there such a hatred from you?
Don't you know?
No, I guess I don't.
Don't you know?
How's your eye, Terry?
I'm trying. Don't you know why I hate you? I hate you because you think that you're a better in-ring performer than anyone else in the world today, or as there ever has been, that goes in the ring. That's because you have such a stinking ego.
Oh.
Well, that's true. That's true.
And Glenn, I see what you're trying to do.
Damn right it is. That's true. He's got an ego. He's got a great, big, huge, fat ego.
What about yours? Your ego has
its own.
Your ego has its own zip
code. That's not the only thing that's fat. Your belly's fat too.
Yeah. Okay. So I could lose a pound or two.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about now?
Well, let's talk about the fact that this match is going to happen this coming weekend in the Carolinas. You got as your partners. This is a 6-man tag, but I don't even care about my partners. But my partners, my own son, Brian Christopher, and Dangerous Doug Gilbert, the brother of Eddie Gilbert. And we're going to be going against you, and you got the Rock and Roll Express as your partners?
Why, sure.
I thought you didn't like the Rock and Roll Express either.
I like the Rock and Roll Express. They're my illegitimate children.
Do you know who created the Rock and Roll Express? Me. I put those two clowns together in Memphis, Tennessee. And now they're in the WWE Hall of Fame because of me.
In the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Rock and Roll Express this past year.
Am I in the WWE Hall of Fame?
Of course you are.
Am I really?
Have you been hit on the head that many times, Terry Funk, that you can't remember that you're in the WWE Hall of Fame?
What the hell? That's amazing.
It is amazing. You're right. It is amazing.
I'm in every Hall of Fame in the country.
Yes, you are, and you should be.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Look at you
and
two.
I should be.
You two guys getting along. This is progressed. You guys
look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Look what Lawler's done to me over the years.
And your eye.
I've had to worry about that guy. Oh, my eye.
Yeah. Oh, my eye.
My eye.
My eye.
Put it down now. The man's eye. Oh.
I can't see. Doctor.
That was from the empty arena match. I'll tell you why that is.
Why is that? Because I had such amazing pain from that injury, and I grabbed it and I said, "Oh, my eye, my eye."
Yeah, because you broke the steps.
What is wrong with that?
You broke the steps and broke up a big chunk of shard of wood, and you were going to stab me with it, and somehow when I blocked it, it stuck the stick in your own eye. The people seem to forget about the fact that you were trying to stab me with the stick, and it backfired on you, and you stuck your own eye, and then you blamed me for trying to put your eye out.
I still can't. That's. You sit there and talk about all of this crap and shit and everything else, and here you are. You're the one that goes ahead of me. I see blurry vision to this day and age, and you did it to me. And people wonder why that I truly dislike you. That is why.
Well,
what do you got to say about that? Go ahead, say something about that.
Yeah,
I got a couple of good teammates.
You should blame yourself, not me.
I got a couple of good teammates that are going to help me in the ring, and you got a couple of idiots that are going to help you try to hurt me. I know what's going on.
But you're calling my own son.
I know what's going on.
You're calling my own son, Grandmaster Sexay, an idiot. And you're calling Dangerous Doug Gilbert, who is the brother of Eddie Gilbert, Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert, an idiot.
What's your kid's name again? Grandmaster what?
Okay. His real name is Brian Christopher.
That's right.
But he was Grandmaster Sexay in the WWE.
Yeah, well, you kind of like it that he was. What did you name him? Grandmaster Sexay?
No, I did not name him. No.
Who named him?
I would imagine somebody in the WWE was.
Who named him? If it was your kid.
No, I named him.
I named
him Brian Christopher. Brian Christopher Lawler is his real name.
Okay, and then along comes WWE.
Yeah.
And you allow them to control your life. I haven't allowed them to control my life. No, I don't drive.
Wait.
No, I don't drive a brand new I don't drive
Wait a minute.
a brand new Lincoln.
Hang
I
on,
don't drive
Chainsaw
a
Charlie.
brand new Lincoln.
Hold on.
I don't live in a goddamn mansion.
Wait a minute,
Do I?
Chainsaw Charlie.
I live in a chicken house.
Well, who was Chainsaw Charlie in the WWE?
Who was he?
Yeah.
He was who I had to be.
Oh, why? You let the WWE control your life?
Not for very long, goddammit.
Okay. Well, I got to admit, you don't try to live off that persona like a lot of people do after they're out of the WWE. You went back to being Terry.
Glad to hear that.
Yes.
I'm glad to hear that.
I am too. Well, I'm glad that this match.
You know, we're on this telephone talking, and you know what the people don't really realize
What's that?
is that I don't like you.
Oh, I think you've made it clear.
I never have liked you.
I think you've made that plain.
I hope I've made that clear and clean to the people in all
over the world. They're listening to this all over the world.
Let's say it, all over the world. That's right. We're all over the world now. I still live in the panhandle of Texas. That's my heaven.
You
live all over the world. All over the world is your heaven. Is that your heaven? All over the world, I can. What do you want to do? You want to? Hell, I've been to Africa before.
Yeah, well, good for you. I'm living in Memphis, Tennessee.
I wouldn't want to be.
All over the world.
Well, that's what you said.
No, I said we're being heard.
You said,
we're being heard.
No,
this
you
conversation.
No, you said that I lived all over the world.
No. I said we're all over the world right now.
No, I heard you, Lawler. You said I lived all over the world. I know what you say.
No, I did not say that. I said this phone call that you're calling us, but we're being heard all over the world.
How much am I? I'm calling you. I'm paying for this goddamn thing.
No, you're not paying.
How much does it cost an hour? How much does AT&T cost an hour?
Are you on like a house phone in Texas? You're not even on a cell phone where you have unlimited minutes.
You call us collect.
I don't have a cell phone.
What are you like in the back? Are you like in the backwoods out there or something, or what? You live on? You really live on a ranch?
I live on a lake now. I live on this nice little lake. And the Double Cross, I sold it.
You did?
Yeah, I sold a Double Cross for just a pittance.
Not what it was worth?
No.
Why would you sell?
Million.
Why would you sell? How much?
17.
17 million?
Yeah, I wish I wouldn't have sold it. I cry every day.
But you live on a lake now, a beautiful lake that you can look out over, and then you look over at your bank book and see $17 million in there. I wouldn't cry. I'd be happy. But you're not a happy person, are you, Terry? You're never happy about anything. I don't know if I've ever seen you smile or be happy. You're always angry. You're always upset about something.
Because every time that you see me, I'm thinking of you, because I'm seeing you. Oh. That's simple. And whenever I see you, anger just explodes in my body. It does.
You know, there's one thing you two have in common.
What?
You both have had successful singing careers.
Singing careers.
Yeah, Jerry, we did a whole podcast about your songs, and Terry Funk.
Well, I know. I'm not questioning that. I know I had a successful singing career, but Terry Funk had a song. He sung his song.
Terry had his own album.
Who's that callous chambermaid? What'd she do with that razor blade? She must have misplaced it, I'm afraid. Boys, it's got to be found. Ask her when she cleans my room what she did with my fur. Can't use it, got to lose it. Lulu's back in town. You can tell all your pets, blondes and brunettes. Ba-doop-ba-doo-da-doo-da-doo. I just won't be around. Tell the mailman not to call. I won't be back until the fall. If I'm coming back at all, Lulu's back in town. How was that?
How the hell do you remember all the words to that sorry song? Who wrote that?
Well, that's Nunya. Nunya wrote it.
Nunya, who's that?
Goddamn business.
Oh, God. Did you really put that out on a record?
Yes, sir.
Great text.
Did it sell any copies at all?
Not many.
Oh my God! What year was that? What year did that song escape? I know it wasn't released; it had to escape. What year did that song come out?
Whenever I did an album for Tokyo.
Yeah, 1984.
Yeah, they can't understand English in the first place.
They didn't know what they were listening to, did they?
1984, I think it was. How did you remember that date? Somebody did.
Oh, Google.
Who said that?
Google.
Glenn looked up. He looks up. See, he's got a little computer sitting right here in front of him. He looks up everything. Anything you say, he'll look it up. He'll tell you the exact date we had the empty arena match, even though you or I can't remember. Or, the exact date we wrestled for the NWA World Title in Memphis.
Yeah, he's helping the world become a bunch of idiots.
Well, Terry, you had a song called "We Hate School," so here's a 50-year-old man talking about how he hates school.
My teacher don't like my music and she don't like my clothes. Up your nose with a rubber hose. I'd like to shove.
Jimmy Hart talked him into doing that. Jimmy Hart wrote that song.
That was the worst song on the entire album. It was so bad. It was horrendous. But I liked Jimmy and I put it on there. And actually, it was the reason that the album didn't sell too many.
Well,
word of mouth spread quickly that "We Hate School" was so bad. Don't buy the record, right?
Yes, it did. It spread quite quickly.
There was a song called Barbra Streisand's Nose. That was a song on the album.
You know, you seem to be quite interested in that album. How many albums did you buy there?
I didn't buy any.
Like it.
I was 1 year old.
How do you know all of this?
Right.
You found it on Google?
I found it on Google.
Google.
It's all on YouTube. You know what YouTube is, Terry?
No, I don't know anything about anything. That's why in the hell do you think you're on my regular land phone here?
Right.
I don't give a shit about cell phones or anything else. I don't care. I want the world to go ahead, and I am outrunning the world right now.
What are you going to do?
Everybody else is Googling, schmoozing, whatever they do on those things. They can do all of it. I'm running down the road on my own, and I'm having a great time, and I know where I'm going. I don't need any of Google's goddamn help.
Well, what are you going to do with that $17 million? Aren't you going to spend thousands on new iPhones and on GPS systems to show you where you're going when you run down the road, and Google and computers and all that kind of stuff? What are you going to spend that $17 million on?
How do you think I got the goddamn $17 million?
You sold the ranch?
Yeah, I sold the ranch and saved my money. Not like you, Lawler.
I saved my money.
Loan your money.
No, I have not.
Yeah.
No, I've saved my money. The fabulous Jackie Fargo. When I first started in the business.
You got what do you got? $500?
$500?
I'll bet every dollar you got in your pocket.
What like how much money I carry around on me right now?
Yeah, look, I'll bet you money every dollar you got is in your pocket. And
no,
it
that's
even
not.
Make it certainly makes a bigger bulge in your pocket than your weenie does.
Oh my gosh! On earth. Now we're going to compare how much money each other have. You remember Jackie Fargo, the fabulous Jackie Fargo? He always told me, "It's not what you make; it's what you save." And he was right. That's exactly right. And I listened to that. I listened to that advice. Well, I guess we can.
I've been on this phone too long.
I realize that.
I've listened to you too much.
You've worn out your welcome.
I don't want to know as much. All I want to know is I'm coming out there and I'm going to beat the shit out of you, Lawler.
No.
That's all, Lawler. Jerry Lawler. The king. I'm the king.
Brucey
Jerry
baby.
Lawler.
Well, we'll see. That coming up this weekend. You
Jerry
better
the king. What's my name? My name's Jerry the King Lawler. And I am the king. I am the king.
Do you have a maid
still
there? Do you have a maid at your house, Terry?
No, I'm chopping up some ice right now.
I thought maybe that was a maid running a vacuum cleaner or something.
No, that was me.
Can you afford a house? Can you afford a housekeeper, a maid?
Can I afford a maid?
Or do you have? Did you sell your
yes.
ranch and have just a small house that you don't even need a maid?
Well, I'd appreciate it if y'all wouldn't tell anybody or anything like that, but I don't have a maid.
What?
But I've got a, huh? No, I don't. I handle it. My wife handles it.
Who's going to take care of your house while you're
I've got a good wife.
While you're going to the, you got what?
I've got a good wife.
Okay, I'm not going to insult your wife like you have done to me in the past.
Your wives.
Oh yeah, now listen to you.
Let's put wives onto that. That wasn't me that did that one.
That was an idiot announcer.
That was too easy.
That was yeah. He had to pop up right with it, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
He beat me. He just beat me to it by a second.
Okay, well, I guess that's about all the time we have for this conversation.
Oh, I guess it is, isn't it? There. All right, I'll get my butt off this phone.
Well, I will see you this weekend.
Well, I'm looking forward to certainly contesting you at my age, and I think the fans will have a hell of a time there.
All right, Terry Funk, thank you for agreeing to be. I think this may be the only podcast you've graced and been on, so I appreciate you doing that.
Okay, I'm off the air now.
Okay, goodbye.
Goodbye.
Let me tell you one thing. I am the meanest man in professional wrestling. And you're on Lawler's side.
I'm not on Lawler's side. I just don't want the trouble with you.
The referee's on Lawler's side. You idiots are on Lawler's side. And evidently, the airplane people are on Lawler's side because they informed him that I was coming here. Now, I'm going to tell you, I am going to take Lawler.
Come on, Terry.
All right, Jerry, that was Terry Funk calling in.
In all his glory.
Master of Pain.
Yeah, that's right. Master of pain. Because where I've been the last 5 years, you have to know how to handle pain. And I know it better than anybody. I've been in the Atlanta State Penitentiary. I'm not ashamed to know it. I went up there on a bad rap because two punks jumped me in a parking lot, and now they're pushing up daisies. And let me tell you, Jerry Lawler, whatever you call yourself, it doesn't matter to me. Like I said, names aren't important where I'm from. But I tell you what, Ricky Morton sent me here, and I'm going to do a job for him. And brother, if you get out alive, you'll be thankful.
Master of Pain. Don't know his name. Not sure I want to.
So yeah, there's the Undertaker's debut promo.
Dave Brown is the greatest. Don't know his name and not sure I want to.
But the Undertaker was, I want to say, he was jacked. He was, back. He was 6'8".
Yeah, he was a big guy.
Yeah.
Always, throughout his entire career. I mean that was the thing. It was so. We got into that I don't know if it was just a modus of operation that we did down there where, anytime we could find a really big guy, we could bring this guy in and I could just have matches with him. I mean, and they were looked at as our fans
or by our fans as just, oh my gosh, this guy's a monster. He's an immediate threat to the king and everything. And so I remember talking to Mark before that interview, and you know, I mean, I don't think he ever did time in prison for killing anybody or anything like that. But you know, so that was just part of the persona, or part of the gimmick that we put on him to explain, you know, why he was just now showing up in where he had been for the past 5 years. And I remember telling him, I said, look, we can't say, I don't think we should actually say the words that you killed somebody you're in prison for killing somebody on TV. So, and when I heard that back, I remember just one of those lines that I came up with. I said, just tell them that, you know, a couple guys jumped you in the parking lot and now they're pushing up daisies. And I remember him saying, pushing up daisies. Yeah, you know, they're underground and they're buried. They're pushing up daisies. He said, "Oh, okay." So anyway, it was just like, you know, he was, as you noted, and we talked about beforehand. Hey, he was young in his career, and that was what was so great about Memphis. I mean, he wasn't a great guy on the microphone from the get-go, and subsequently we realized that, you know, and we put one of my all-time favorite managers, who's deceased now, Ronnie P. Gossett, and of course Dutch Mantell was there to talk for Mark at first when he was the Master of Pain, and then we put Ronnie P. Gossett with him, and he did the most of the talking for. This is so confusing. I want to call him Undertaker. I want to call him Mark. I don't want to call him Master of Pain. So I guess for the Memphis time, we'll just call him Master of Pain. So Ronnie P. Gossett did most of the.
You know, I knew we were going to talk about this, so I brought the letter that Jim Carrey wrote to me a couple of years ago. Hang on a second. Let me really over here and grab this. All right, here, I got it right here. I brought it with me.
Jerry, don't get barbecue sauce on that.
No, you're right. I mean, look at this piece of paper. This is like that. It's like gold parchment paper. Very special.
Very nice.
This letter here. Anyway, and I've never shared this with anybody. Nobody knows about this, or actually the actual wording of what he wrote. I've told people that, you know, that I heard from him since the original movie. But this was like maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. I get a call. I mean, I hadn't heard anything from Jim Carrey since the filming of the movie, 17 or 18 years ago or anything like that. So all of a sudden, a couple years ago, out of the blue, I get a call, and I thought this was maybe a joke. I get a call from Jim Carrey's secretary out in California. I said, Mr. Lawler? I said, yeah. She said, this is, I'm secretary for Jim Carrey, and Mr. Carrey has something that he would like to send you, and I just want to call and get your mailing address. And I said, Jim Carrey's got something he wants to send me. I said, what is it? And she's, I can't tell you. It's a surprise. Yeah, and I'm like, what in the world? So anyway, I give her my mailing address, and that was it. We hang up. And a few days later, I get this box in the mail. And I open it up, and the first thing on top of the box is this letter from Jim. And it says, Your Royal Highness. Yeah, that's the way he starts this thing off, right? Now, to preface this, I don't know if you remember in the movie when we did the wrestling scenes, they had made this costume for me that sort of resembled one of the ones that I guess they just looked at the footage of what Jim and I wore that night or what Andy and I wore that night at the actual match, and so they tried to copy this wrestling robe that I had on, and they did a good job. I mean, it was just big ornate robe that sort of looked like it was inspired by what Kiss would wear on stage. And so anyway, apparently the first thing that I kind of figured out when I'm reading this letter is somebody gave him or sent him that wrestling outfit, that robe. I didn't get to take it back with me after we did the filming. I never saw it again. It just stayed in wardrobe or whatever. And apparently somebody gave it to him. And I deduced from reading this that maybe he thought I sent it to him. is the reason that he was responding with this. Or I don't know how he got it, but obviously he got it, because here's what he said. He said, "Your Royal Highness, your wrestling outfit is absolutely the greatest gift anybody has ever sent me. To have that piece of memorabilia from the most avant-garde moment in comedy history is a real thrill for me. Working with you was both an honor and an odyssey. I truly felt that Andy was still in charge, and I hope you'll accept this modest gift in return. I know you've done some music, so I wanted to share some treasures I found in my record collection." And I'm reading this, and then I look in the box, and here's like 10 old vinyl albums, record albums, right? And they're all done by wrestlers. There's like an album by Antonio Rocco that had to come from like maybe in the 50s or 60s, you know, the guy that wrestled barefoot up there in New York, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it's an album that it's all these albums that wrestlers had done for one reason or other. Sweet Daddy Siki, the first WWF wrestling music album with Hulk Hogan on the cover. I mean, just I don't know, about 10 different albums that I had never seen or heard before, except for the WWF one, was in this box. And so I'm expecting something really cool, and all of a sudden I see these old wrestling albums, and I thought, oh brother. He said, but then he goes on. He said, but seriously, that was way beyond generous. So I mean, I think he's going back now about talking about the robe, you know, that I wore out there, and I think he thinks that he thought that I sent it to him. He said, but seriously, that was way beyond generous. And if you're ever in LA, please don't hesitate to call. I have a box at the Staples Center for basketball, hockey, and special events, and I'd love for you to be my guest. Hail to the king, your loyal subject. And then it's personally signed Jim Carrey.
That's amazing, Keith.
So, yeah, it is kind of amazing. But then, you know, you hear this. I have a box at the Staples Center for basketball, hockey, and special events, and I'd love for you to be my guest. But in typical Jim Carrey fashion, he did not include a way to get back in touch with him to line up being his guest, or to you know, it was just this box and letter with no return address or anything like that, where I could, where I could get in touch with him to come and be his guest at the Staples Center. But yeah, that was, I mean, I just thought that was kind of
well, do you have the phone number for the secretary, the caller ID?
No.
Wow.
No.
Well, Jim Carrey, if you're listening, Jerry Lawler wants to be your guest. Oh, you got a waffle fry in you.
Yeah. Wow. Excuse me. You're right. I do. I'm still waiting on that invite to be in your box at the Staples Center.
Well, now that Jim knows, if he listens to this, people,
are you kidding me? Do you think Jim Carrey listens to this podcast?
No, he doesn't. But I'm saying if word gets,
did you see how many people with Jim Carrey? He's got like 12 million followers on Twitter. Do you see how many people he follows?
One.
I
think his daughter.
I don't know. I think that probably he doesn't even do his Twitter account. A lot of stars don't really do their own Twitter account.
Okay. Well, if word gets back to Jim that, okay, you know, you did not send this robe to him, is the offer rescinded then for the press box, for the box seat?
No, I don't know. No, it shouldn't be, because he got the robe one way or the other. So
yeah.
And I think it was my understanding that it was supposed to be my robe, you know, that I was supposed to get to keep the robe after the filming of the movie, because it was made just for me for that role. So anyway, but he wound up with it.
Well, that's great that he wrote a person. You don't see that very often. You know, maybe a call that says thank you, but a personalized letter. Was it handwritten or typed?
Well, it's typed on this awesome. This parchment paper, gold parchment paper. But then, of course, you know, it's his signature. He signed the whole thing. But I mean, to have a piece of memorabilia from the most avant-garde moment in comedy history. Now, what he's talking about, he's not talking about the movie itself. Right. He's talking about the deal that me and Andy Kaufman did as being the most avant-garde moment in comedy history.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, King. I mean, it's Lawler versus Kaufman. The real feud will stand the test of time, and we talked about it during our podcast series. Is that everybody, they may not know who Jerry Lawler is. After that, if they don't watch wrestling, but it bridged the gap between Hollywood and professional wrestling that has lived on even to today with WWE and all the Hollywood stuff they do during WrestleMania or throughout the year.
Sure.
You started that, King.
Now, let me ask you this. What do you think he meant? I've looked at this a bunch of times, and I've tried to figure out what he meant by this next sentence when he said, working with you was both an honor and an odyssey.
Honor and, well, obviously, it's a compliment. Obviously.
Yeah, but what did he? Why was it an odyssey? What does that even mean?
It's a long wandering or voyage, usually marked by many changes of fortune. It was a, well, Jim Carrey's a very spiritual man. The other definition is a spiritual wandering or quest.
Yeah.
So maybe, yeah. So that's a very, very good compliment.
Well, you know what? I swear to you, I still believe this in my heart, that him doing this movie back in that time, 1999 or 2000 or whatever, I don't believe that Jim Carrey was a spiritual man before that. I believe that he was Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, Grinch, all of those people rolled into one. And doing this movie and becoming Andy Kaufman had such an impact on him. Then I believe after that he became the spiritual person that he has remained to this day. And I think that's when he started his odyssey, was during the filming of this movie. And I really believe it changed his whole life. I mean, he's into transcendental meditation now because Andy was. And except Andy at the time didn't take it to the weird level that Jim Carrey has.
That's amazing. Yeah, you can tell in the documentary with the film at the end when Jim is talking about his life and how he is now, and it just this movie really had a big effect on him long term, even after he kind of killed off the Andy Kaufman character after the movie was commenced. It's a really interesting film if you haven't seen it, people.
Yeah, it really is. I'm proud to be a part of it. And it was financially rewarding for me to be a part of it too. That's another story that I can't tell. I'm contractually obligated not to tell about that part.
But still, it's a great documentary. If you guys want to watch it, it's on Netflix. Just a great film. And just as someone who watched the film when it came out, because of Jerry the King Lawler, it's very interesting to see all the behind the scenes footage. Not even with the parts with you, King, but just overall, how he really sold and really was into the character so much through the whole process. Just amazing. Right. Jim Carrey.
And for so many people that I personally had, and I know a lot of people had wondered, what happened to the Ace Ventura? What happened to the Grinch guy? What happened to Jim Carrey over the years? He became almost like a recluse. And if you see, when you see him, you'll see this long beard and totally looking nothing like Ace Ventura at all, and he's just becomes this serious, not it's like a total transformation. It's not like the Jim Carrey that anybody, I think, remembers from the movie screens.
All right. That was a long answer to one birthday wish.
Oh, it sure was.
But no, it was great. A lot of emails we've come in or tweets, they want to know about Jim and Andy. And we talked about it a little bit last week, but after myself.
And I've never read that letter to anybody. So this is the first today on the podcast.
Well, I feel all our listeners are treated. So on your birthday, you're giving us a treat. I got a head nod from Vince once.
You did?
I was with you.
Oh.
We were backstage
Hey, a head nod. That's a big deal. Hey, well, listen. I mean, when you realize that he deals with people like on a daily basis, like Donald Trump and that kind of stuff before Trump was elected president, and Vince's wife Linda is on the president's cabinet, and that sort of thing. When you realize he deals with people like that on a daily basis, that to get a head nod from the guy is a cool deal. I mean, that to me that's awesome.
Well, you and I were when sometimes I travel with you, and we go to Raw, and you get to I basically am your shadow when it goes backstage and Raw and whatnot. And you always tell me, no photos, no, don't talk to anybody, just stand here, Glenn, just stand here and be out of the way. And so it was just you and I backstage, and you had to go to the production truck to record some stuff. And you go, Glenn, stay here until I come back. Do not talk to anybody. Don't say anything. Just stand here. And I'm by myself while you go off, and I'm standing there against the wall. And here comes Vince by himself, walking down, through the tunnel backstage in the arena. This is hours before the show, and Vince looks at me, and I'm like, holy crap, it's Vince. And I'm like, does not like people he doesn't know backstage. He doesn't know who I am, obviously. But he just gives me a head nod. He gives me a head nod and just keeps on walking. And you came back, and I'm like, Vince walked by. You're like, oh, great. What'd you do, Glenn? Did you ask for a photo? What'd you do? And I'm like, no. He just gave me a head nod and kept walking. You're like, really? I'm like, yeah. Just nodded his head like, how you doing? And that was it. I was like taken back.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. I mean, he has his moments, and to him, he has them all the time. I'm just at home there on our counter. A lot of times, I've taken Lauren and Peyton to the matches and different things, and they'll have an opportunity to be backstage. And of course, Peyton's wanting to get his picture made with everybody. And one of the coolest pictures he had was Vince was coming out of his his office there at one show, and I introduced him to Lauren and Peyton, and he just reached down and picked Peyton up and said, take a picture of us, and so I mean, I didn't even have to ask him. It just he's holding Peyton up in his arms, and big smiling picture. He looked like a proud granddad or something like that in the picture, and that's one of Peyton's coolest photos that he has of all the WWE superstars. So yeah, he's just, I mean, everybody's so in awe of Vince McMahon, and rightfully so. But then I think that's a lot of that comes from the character that Vince McMahon is so good at playing and portraying on TV. That's why I say if I was in charge and we said we're going to make a movie about Vince McMahon, I would say, well, Vince McMahon is going to have to be Vince McMahon.
Who the hell are you? Why are you backstage? Get out of my arena. I wanted to play this for you. We all know the fans of wrestling are very creative. They like to take things and repurpose them as something else. Somebody made a song about Jim Ross. Good old JR.
A song.
Right. Well, the song is taking Jim Ross sound bites and turning them into Jim Ross talking about his ass.
What?
And you're included.
Is it really clips of his voice?
It's his voice.
Or did they just read it?
No, it's Jim Ross's voice, and they have clips of your voice being used as well. Do you want to hear the song, King?
Of course. How could I not want to hear that?
It's called Jim Ross, My Ass.
Wait. Is it going to make Jim mad? Uh-oh.
Well,
do the quick disclaimer. We had nothing, JR, if you're listening, we had nothing to do with this whatsoever.
Yeah, I did not make this. This has been made for 10 years. 10
years?
Yeah, 10 years. This is 10 years old. So I did not make this at all. So
hopefully the person that made this is no longer living in the parents' basement. But go ahead. Let's hear it.
Here we go. This is Jim Ross, My Ass.
Time has arrived. We are broadcasting Raw live from my ass. Boom, boom! I'd rather watch two old women slap my ass. That's as tough as a chunk of my ass. Here comes the biggest ass The big man is back. Jim Ross, 350 pounds here. Say hello to my ass. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the greatest spectacle on earth, my ass. 30 men will enter my ass. You know what I mean. The most important thing to a tag team is my ass. I totally agree with you, JR. Here you go, King. Kiss my ass. I wish you would jump on top of me, JR. It disgusts me to see my ass. My daughter's nursery rhymes are more aggressive than this. I can't help but look at the butt, JR. What? This is making me sick. Is it over? No, not yet. Referee Earl Hebner is always in my ass. That's a little weird. Transmission. He's got a first-class ticket to my ass. Executioner. Here comes Maven. Raven. What? Jim Ross. Now, let's not give anyone some bad ideas. There's going to be plenty of turbulence in my ass. Booker T is an idiot. It's not the rock bottom. It's my ass. Are you serious? Oh, my God. The poison has now been injected into my ass. This is not right, King. The poison is not going to stop until they wipe my ass. I can think of about 7,000 or 8,000 things I'd rather have in my ass. I don't even care anymore. Look at the confident expression on my ass. The fat lady's singing now. He's only got one thing on his mind, and it's my ass. My granny is the most feared object of pain. Everyone, don't forget to visit myass.com for great WWE products. Oh, yeah. Didn't see that coming. It's about as effective as a one-legged man in my ass. Like taking candy from a baby. I'm going to tell you the truth right now. I've known JR for 20 years, and he don't give a damn about the fans. He's a glory hound, and he just doesn't want to hang it up. He doesn't want to admit that his days are over. Oh! Boom shakalaka! Boom shakalaka! Boom! Boom shakalaka! Boom shakalaka! Boom shakalaka! Boom shakalaka! Old school. The big man is back. Anyway, I have some news here for you. Kiss my ass, lousy bastard. That's all. Oh my God! Boom shakalaka! Boom shakalaka! Boom boom shakalaka! Boom 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 shakalaka! Boom 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 boom! Give it to him! Give it to him! Shakalaka! Jim Ross is every woman's dream and every man's nightmare. It's assault and battery. Oh yeah! Nothing can stop that Oklahoma stampede. Don't do it. Boom shakalaka! Boom shakalaka! Good old JR! Boom shakalaka! Boom shakalaka! Boom shakalaka!
Okay. All right. Oh my gosh, I'm crying. That was hilarious. I think even I don't know if JR's heard that, but I think even he would laugh at that. That is so funny.
There's a so there was
that. Can you imagine how much work went into that?
Finding all the clips, finding him say ass. Well, what could fit with his ass?
That was so funny.
So there's
you gotta put that up or send that to me or something. I gotta have that.
Yeah, send it to JR. Do you think JR would be upset with that?
I don't know. I don't think he would be. I think he'll find that funny, and I think he will appreciate maybe the amount of time and effort that went into that. This was funny.
So JR does know about the video. He does know about the song. And
so he's heard it.
He's heard it. He goes, this is a comment from JR. He goes, yes, I have heard the new version of My Ass 2, which is what I played you. And he even encouraged this is JR speaking, even encouraged my football coaching friends at OU, Oklahoma, to check it out. Someone out there.
See? I knew he would like it.
Someone out there is taking a far amount of time on these projects, and I find them funny. As long as I don't ever have to sing or dance, the song will be A-OK. I consider it all. I consider it all in the spirit of fun.
Well, that's good because that was funny, and I knew he would appreciate that. That was, I mean, golly, that took forever to put that together, to find all those clips and the music, the whole works. It was classic.
Yeah,
I was honored to be in there too a little bit.
Yeah, I've known JR for 20 years. He doesn't care about anybody.
You know, a lot of times when a loved one or a great close friend passes away, you are left with the feeling that I never really got to say goodbye, or I never really got to tell the person how I felt about them. But I'm happy in the fact that over the years, I did have several opportunities to tell Lance how much I thought of him, how much I loved him, how important he was to me, that without Lance, there would be no me. And I knew that, and I had the opportunity to say that to Lance Russell. I loved Lance Russell, and there'll never be another person like him.
I just wanted to tell you how much fun it is coming back again to talk to you, even with a little nonsense. Hope you enjoy this particular day, wherever you may be.
I'll tell you for a fact, and we got more of it coming up next week, though, my friend, so we're going to be looking for you.
We'll see you the next time we're around, where they've got ring post and that kind of stuff.
Till we see you at that time, for Dave Brown, Lance Russell saying bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
But any final, maybe 3 words or any final thoughts you want to express?
Oh, I know what we're looking for here. I know. Well, hopefully you have the means to censor it. I did get my first cease and desist from WWE, and that's very genuine on being the elite. But I'll go ahead and hit you with one closing thought, and that is the revival. And other than that, I had a great time talking to both of you, and I can't wait till Friday.
Awesome. All right, Cody, thank you very much for being on here. And I want you to make me one promise that you'll come back on even if I beat you Friday.
Regardless of the outcome of Friday, I will absolutely return, and I would love to come to the restaurant. I've heard great things about it.
The preceding show is a Pod Avenue production.